are back. What is up, RotoGrinders? 2 hours, 2+ hours of nonstop MLB DFS conversation. It starts right now, taking you all the way up the first pitch, taking you up to crunch time. Crunch time comes in 6:15-ish. You got chief mineralogist Kevin Roth. You got Derek Carty, CEO of the Bat and the Blitz, and you have SquirrelPatrol, one of the greatest DFS players of all time. Over 100, I believe exactly 100, maybe more than 100 at this point. Live final appearances, $1 million win as well. Chop says raise. Chop, $2 million winnings for Head Chopper, as well as the leader of I've lost track of. It's been so long since I've done this. I lost track of the the name of your room. I don't know how. I just completely forgot. The prop shop. It just sort of lost in my head. The leader of the prop shop. It's the chief himself. Will, happy Friday. You know what it is? Yeah, it's a brand new season. It's been over a week. It doesn't feel like a Friday. It's a Friday. We're back for Friday and then off tomorrow. Well, I won't be here tomorrow, but there will be shows. There will be content. Bail me out of this, Will. Happy Friday and happy baseball again. How are things in your world?
Yeah, for sure. Doing well, man. I had a nice little break. I went on a little mini vacation and spent a fair amount of time with friends and family over the break, and so definitely glad to come back and hop back on the saddle and hopefully help some folks make some money as well. I mean, that's why we're here, Dean. The show is free, but we want to help put some money in people's pockets, and hopefully we're able to do that today for sure. First day back.
Looking forward to it. I do want to say what's up to the chat. Thank you for remembering that baseball was still a thing. Hit that like button. I saw there were several likes as I was jumping in. Do subscribe. Do turn on those notifications so you know we go live. A couple things I should address here in the chat. Yeah, Mr. Gerg says we did a squad ride today. Yeah, I guess I'm on the squad ride. There was no sports. There was some sports, fringe sports, I suppose. And there was not any squad ride picks. But I'm not really sure who's up and who's nominated. But yeah, maybe producer Steve, if you can hit somebody up. I'm not sure if you can handle that, or I'm not sure who's up, or if you can check out the old Discord. Yeah. We have no squad ride pick today. Hopefully we can get one out there for the people. We'll take care of that. And there are no games today. Matt's asking any games. It's not Fleet Thursday. It's not Movie Monday. But this could be better. Dave Potts, cheese is good. 2-time millionaire winner. His musings are free. It's a free Friday. Every single Friday we give away something away for free. I will go ahead and drop this in the chat for the people. Yeah, feel free to read that at your own leisure. If you want to read it while you're listening. If you can multitask, by all means. A fabulous read, just a spectacular dive. As far as the slate, a great overview. Check out Dave Potts, his musings. Chop, happy Friday. How are things?
They're all right, Dean, I guess. Back in the saddle here, brother. But now you get that all-star break over with, and now you can really start sensing the old NFL around in the corner there. So, and Underdog dropped a little college football best ball on us over the break. Yeah. So that's interesting. What's up?
That's the one, Chop. Like, let's not bury the lead here. Yeah, college football DFS that's what's coming around the corner, man. I can't wait.
Are we getting rankings, Chop? Does Spike Week have rankings for college football? Is there anything in the works?
Spike Week actually has some content for it. At RotoGrinders, we are going to drop something here pretty soon. With a nice little ranking / your bye weeks and everything that you need to really build some competitive lineups. Bye weeks in college football are outrageous. Like, you don't even some teams have 3 bye weeks, so you have to account for all that. There's 2 weeks in the playoffs where people will have byes. You got to account for all that. We're gonna have all that covered though.
Yeah, I did see it drop, but I was not confident enough to get in those streets. So I was in the NFL streets, a lot of best ball stuff for NFL, mostly DK. I know, but we have affiliate links for all this stuff too as well. Check out the site, RotoGrinders.com, if you're not already linked up on such sites. I know Drafters has something going on this weekend. I think if you draft 5 on Drafters, you get 1 for free as well. So I'll probably be in the Drafters streets. I did some baseball best balls yesterday on DK because there was a lot of overlay looming. I'm not sure people even aware that was happening, but I had some fun with that. A lot of best ball stuff. Digging in the NFL as well, just like you, Chop. And I feel like I'm more prepped than ever for NFL. Typically, I'm one of those of a late bloomer, DFS. We care about today and today only. And we'll get to today. We'll get to baseball in a second. But way ahead of the curve, I think, on football. And also talking more of it on Sirius in the weekend sometimes. I'll be on Sunday with STL Carts. If you guys don't know, RotoGrinders, we are on Sirius on the weekends. Times may vary, usually 5 to 7, 7 to 9, depending on check the schedule. All right. How about Will? Do you dabble in those best ball streets?
Yeah, I've already got some in. I don't have any for college football, but I already have some in on Underdog for NFL, and I'll start loading a few more in. I am not like a huge best ball guy in terms of like putting in 500 best balls, Dean. I'm pretty much playing a lot of their single entry stuff. But so that's more my deal with best ball right now. And then maybe as the years come, I'll transition into a lot more of the multi-entry ones. But I've been hitting a lot of their single entry stuff. So that's been really fun.
Bossbro hanging out in chat says college football best ball. Where that's Underdog. Is there anywhere else but Underdog? As far as I know, it's just there now. Chop. Is there another spot for that? I think it's 2D.
Yeah, Underdog's the one you want. Underdog's the big one.
Chop, if you need me to talk to Bime for, I'll get you hooked up with a Spike Week. I see in the chat apparently you still can't get yourself a count. I feel like we can make that happen. I don't know.
I don't know. He's kind of particular about giving out the free access, so it's all good, man.
I mean, I don't want to brag or anything, Chop, but one of us, at least in this room, might have free access to Spike Week. I don't want to point fingers and say who, but maybe I'll let you use my password if you're nice to me in the show. But good luck with that. We still have an hour to go. By the way, you guys aren't aware of this. For tiers later on, we actually have a guest ranker. We have a guest ranker for tiers. So get excited for that. We're talking about our favorite stacks. TJ in chat says, I need that Dean has never answers me. What? I read? Is TJ saying something incorrectly? Or am I reading that wrong? What is he saying there? I need that Dean has never. I need that Dean. I can't read. That's the problem. Oh, apparently Bimeford doesn't answer anybody's DMs. I don't know what's going on. TJ is confirming Chop's story, apparently. I guess got lucky, I suppose. I don't know. Or maybe I was persistent. I don't recall how it happened. In any event, 11 gamer tonight. We have cores. I know, Will, how you feel about cores. We'll talk about that as we progress. It's kind of sort of like opening day where we have a slew of good starters. It's like a lot of teams are rolling out their opening day starters. Some teams don't have an opening day starter. Edward Cabrera is also throwing baseballs today. There were some rough names. Chris Flexen is throwing baseballs today for Chicago. Cal Quantrill is throwing baseballs for Colorado. FanDuel did not get the memo that the San Fran was in core. So, DK juiced up all the San Fran prices. FanDuel did not. And it's a tale of two different sites as far as San Fran. Of course, you can get San Fran and DK. It's a little bit trickier. It's hard to go double barrel with San Fran. You can make it work, but you're probably not going to like everything else. But yeah, a slew of good pitchers taking the bump tonight. Chop, what do you have as far as your overview? The San Fran, clearly the best total on the board. There's not a lot of clear and obvious pitchers to pick on. Certainly there's some that you can. We'll have that conversation. But what are you seeing as far as the 11 gamer this evening?
Well, Dean, we're coming out of the All-Star break, so it's very similar to opening day where you can set your rotation however you want it, or just about, and have anybody you want go in those first two games of a series. So we're getting a lot of aces tonight, a lot of really good pitchers at least. And, this is going to be a good, deep pitching slate, and I do not see a lot of places that I really want to pick on for offense. So the Coors Field thing is big. It just so happens, crazy enough how this works out sometimes, but just so happens there is a Coors Field game on the slate. And not only that, it's probably two of the pitchers you can pick on the most out of this entire slate, which sucks because now, everybody's going to go that route, or, a lot of people are. It's going to be chalky, but so, yeah, a lot of deep pitching, not a whole lot of offense out there. It's the day after the All-Star, the first game after the All-Star break. So we just gotta suck it up and find offense somewhere.
By the way, Sean Manaea kind of bounced in and out of projections throughout the day. Like they weren't really sure who was going to be starting for the Mets. It actually is Manaea. That's what we thought it was last night, but then it was Quintana. Now it's Manaea. It's officially Manaea throwing baseballs against the Marlins in Miami. Pulling up the ownership stuff, Will. Before we kind of dig into that, I'm curious, what is your overview? What are you kind of seeing as far as this slate? Again, not a lot of clear and obvious spots from a hitting perspective. I'm looking for totals above 5. San Fran, sure. I think Colorado's kind of sort of right there, but not exactly there. New York is just 4.5. That's the Yankees. Mets look pretty good, but like the ballpark kind of stinks. But they are locked in for 9 against the Marlins. They have above 4 total. But yeah, KC's got a total above 5, but really there's not a lot to speak of. Garrett Cole is the chalk currently on DK by 36% ownership. Then Hunter Brown, who's been spectacular. He had that one hiccup, but otherwise he's been good for like, I don't know, a month and a half now, at least. Luis Castillo taking on a Houston team that's kind of underwhelming. He's got pretty dramatic splits, and they have one real lefty power hitter, and that's it. And he's really good against righties. Will, your screenshot for the slate. What are we seeing? What are we looking at? Pitching-wise, overview, what do you got for me?
I think pitching is really good tonight. I think top to bottom, this is probably one of the best pitching slates we've had probably in months. I'm saying in terms of just a bevy of options for you to choose from, a lot of ways to construct. And so I'm not going to have any problems playing any pitchers tonight in terms of construction. And then I think you can build from pitchers to bats tonight. So sometimes, Dean, I really do think there's merit in you say, okay, this is the pitcher I like. Let me put him in, and then let me at least take my top stat, and then let me see, how I want to build from there. On tonight's slate, I think the pitching is reasonable enough. Like you got guys in the 9K range, guys in the 8K range. I think there are guys in the 7K range. Maybe you want to go all the way down to, Canning or Sears. You might. I'm not saying I am or I'm not. We'll talk about that later. But I'm saying maybe you decide you want to go down that far, and then on DraftKings that helps you get some nice one-offs around your stack. So I think there's multiple ways to do it, but I do think tonight you just pick your pitchers, and I think you can build however you want. Me personally, if you ask me right now who I felt like one of my favorite stacks was, it's the Boston Red Sox, and I'll talk about why. But all in all, I think this slate can go any way. I think there are multiple teams that can win you a tournament. I think there are a bunch of pitchers that can win you a tournament.
Big time opportunity cost as far as pitchers tonight. Cole, Brown, Castillo, Flaherty, one of the best pitchers in baseball season long. Manaea looks good tonight facing the Marlins. Sonny Gray in Atlanta. By the way, weather-wise, really nothing lurking out there weather-wise. We do officially have a yellow from Roth in Atlanta. Nothing that I would be panicking about just yet. Of course, we'll be on in about an hour or so. Add some clarity if anything changes. But according to Roth, let's see, storm chances increased in the latter half of the game. I think the likely outcome is probably a dry 9, but a delay in the mid to late innings or even a game that doesn't go a full 9 isn't fully out of the question. Green, yellow in Colorado. Weather edge-wise, really nothing popping either. Like most places are in the 70s or the 80s. I don't think we have a 90s as far as temperature, so it's not like extremely hot. So we have really good pitching, and nothing really jumps out as like awesome hitting weather. So my expectations are tempered as far as hitting, and we'll get the stacks later on. But like the idea of San Fran chalk, if it is going to be chalk, more so on FanDuel, just it's so much easier to make work. The players are just so cheap over there. I don't really love it, but the other argument, I think even I know Dave made it in his article. I think Chop, you're kind of referencing it as well. It's not even so much cores. Like cores, sure, of course that matters, but it's still like it's the two of the worst pitchers on the slate, no matter where that game takes place. In Quantrill, I know Kyle Harrison's got a lot of prospect to him, but he hasn't quite shown it just yet. So 11 game slate, and if that's going to be really chalky, I'm curious how much that's going to play out. But I'm probably not going to have a ton of San Fran for my main lineup. We'll see. Choppy running like one main, 150. We having fun. What's the strategy as far as?
We are not having fun, Dean. We are not having fun tonight. We are doing one lineup on each side. One lineup on each side. the show handcuffs you from building. I don't, can't really get into it as much as I want. So one lineup, and we'll get into a little bit more tomorrow.
How locked in are you on these are my pitchers? These are my two pitchers, or is it like I'm happy to settle on, if it makes my stacks work, any two of these like 5, any two of these 6, any two of these 7? Is it just sort of like a tier? Like I'll take any two of these guys and that kind of fit with my stacks. What's the strategy there? Or it's like I want this pitcher and maybe one of these 4.
No, I'm not locked in to anybody right now. Like I really like the Coors Field for offense, but I've got to get out of that mindset because everybody's thinking like that. Of course, So I got to try to get out of that mindset. But as far as like pitching, no, not locked in at all. Have no idea who I'm going to take. It could be just about anybody. So, hopefully the show brings a little clarity when we start talking about it and bounce ideas off of each other, and I can, whittle it down a little bit.
That's kind of how I feel. Where I mean, of course, I'm going to draw the line. I'm going to spend up on my pitching, depending how you define that. Like I'm not going to be playing Sears, or probably not even Waka, maybe Schwellenbach, but probably not. But I'm going to probably pick 2 of Cole, Brown, Castillo, Gray. I don't really love Gray. Gray's fine. Bassett, I don't really love, but he's fine. I prefer just to spend down on something like Manaea. Corbin Burns, I think it's going to be lost this slate, 11% for him. Flaherty at 10%. Bad strikeout matchup, but Flaherty, one of the best pitchers in all of baseball this season. If you look at all the pitchers as a whole, Flaherty is the best strikeout pitcher on the slate, 32.1%. It's interesting. He's tied with one other pitcher. And this is kind of small sample alert for both ways, right? Edward Cabrera has a 32.1% K rate, and he's just been terrible this year. When he's not striking you out, he's walking you or getting barreled and getting hit hard. He's got a very strange, just his season-long numbers are bizarre. 2.54 homers per 9 in that ballpark in Miami, 30.8% homer to fly ball. Like that has to go down. It just has to. It's like, that's like home run derby percentages, basically. An ERA of over 8, a Sierra 3.47, which is a very acceptable Sierra. It's really good. But he's got the highest walk rate at 11.5%. He's got the highest barrel percentage rate, too, at 15.3%. A lot of it's small sample stuff, but I just think he's an interesting dart as a cheapie, but also I like the Mets to attack. They're one of my favorite stacks tonight as well. Maybe play both sides of it. But I just also don't think it's necessary. I don't need to punt with a super cheap pitcher. There is an opportunity cost. So I just thought it was interesting to add some context to Cabrera. But yeah, Flaherty, top strikeout guy in the slate, 32.1%, Gray at 30%, Pavetta at 28, Bybee at 28, Cole at 25, which isn't like spectacular, but it's pretty good. He finally got fully stretched out. I think he went through over 100 pitches last time out. Well rested. Hunter Brown gets that bump against Seattle. Castillo on the other side. There's just so many good names. And again, Corbin Burns kind of lost in the slate. Perfectly fine. Well, do you have anybody like you clearly want? This is the guy I want, and that's that. Kirkwood saying Cabrera shoving tonight. He might. And maybe is Kirkwood talking from like a Yahoo perspective, or like maybe he's crazy cheap? I assume he is. And then you can like really fully unleash. I just don't know how much I need him, but I do think he's interesting for 20. If you're running 150, he would be in the pool for me at least. Well, do you have any clear and define, like these are my favorite 2 and I'm going to make them work?
I mean, I think if you just want to hang out in the mid-range, I mean, I feel like it's probably Hunter Brown and Sean Manaea. Brown for the strikeout upside versus, Seattle. You look at this Seattle lineup, and I mean, just Dean, I'm actually going to give the specifics top to bottom. J.P. Crawford, 25%, Garver, 33, Raleigh, 35, J-Rod, 28, Polanco, 35, which is very surprising. Rayleigh, 30, 31, Ty France, 25, Rojas, 18, Dylan Moore, 27. Those are your K rates of pretty much the projected lineup here. Dean, pretty much everybody's at 25% or more outside of Josh Rojas. And so, with Hunter Brown, he's at 24% on the year. And we've just seen in these matchups, even bottom of the barrel pitchers, Dean, have been able to pick up 4 to 5 strikeouts. And some of the upper tier or mid-tier pitchers have been able to pick up 6 to 7. Some of the upper tier pitchers have been at 10 or above. I think Hunter Brown has tremendous strikeout upside. Now, could he get hit around some? Yeah. But I do think this is a spot where he has the option for double-digit strikeouts. I'm not saying he gets there. I think probably somewhere between 6 and 8 is most reasonable, Dean, if that makes any sense. But I think he's got upside for double-digit strikeouts tonight. And then in terms of Manaea, you heard the numbers on Brown, 24% overall, 27% to lefties, 22% to righties. That's on the season. Sean Manaea is at 24% also, D. 28% to lefties, 22% to righties. And while this lineup doesn't have as much strikeout upside in a general sense, I mean, there's still 4 to 5 guys here, above 20%. Got Jazz at 24, De La Cruz at 27, Berger at 21, Sanchez at 23, Rivera at 21. But I think you're playing Manaea more so for the price. So when Manaea is sitting here at 7,600, I think that's a really good price for him. And then also additionally, Dean, while there may not be as many strikeouts on paper in this particular matchup for him, there's just no power in this lineup. Like this Miami lineup, you're not expecting him to give up home runs here. You're hopefully expecting that, he's going to, have very limited run scoring opportunities here and also have the option for, I would say, 6 to 7 strikeouts in this game. I would probably pencil him in closer to 6 than 7, but I do like Manaea. I think he can pick up 6 strikeouts. I think there's a ton of run prevention that's in store for him tonight, and I think he can complete 7 innings with the low power of this team. So all those data points together, I like Brown a ton. I like Manaea a ton. And I really thought that was going to kind of be the chalk pairing today. Like we've got Brown projected for about 18%, 17 is some change. And Manaea is at 13. I really thought both of these guys were going to be in the 20s today. So that was actually really exciting for me to be able to play them. So those are probably 2 of my favorites. And then, of course, I'm not going to try to convince anyone out of Garrett Cole. I'm not playing Luis Castillo for what that's worth. Like he's getting the X button just because I don't trust him for the season at this point. And I don't need him today against Houston. He's not somebody I have to have. There's tons of pitchers, so I can be very selective.
Yeah, I'm with you. If I need to save some salary, I got Hunter Brown ahead of Manaea, but I'm going with Manaea as well. Like both. And yeah, I was looking at the plate IQ as far as the power numbers for Miami. They're really, really inept. Collectively, this lineup has a 0.85 ISO. And like to put that in perspective, the worst team in baseball, the ISO is 120, right? This is not splits related. I can do splits as well. That's the Marlins too. On the season, their ISO is 120 against everybody. I guess if you put it against lefties, it would probably shrink even more. And then, specific lineup as well. Yeah, against lefties, it's 101 on the season. That's not active roster. That's everybody included. And this is 0.85. Just dreadful. A dude named Otto Lopez is batting 5th. Like Jesus Sanchez, Xavier Edwards has been – somebody gave me the business the other day. His batting average is good, but it's completely empty batting average. Not a lot of power. Good for his batting average, but he's just not getting any extra base hits. Rivera, Fortes – did somebody in chat say Fortes BBP? Chapo, you on top of that? The Fortes BBP versus Manaea? I don't know if you fired up the old
Fortes BBP did not jump off the algorithm today.
I just got my curiosity. What could it possibly be? How many possible bats can he? Okay, so Fortes is 2 for 2 with 2 homers versus Manaea, of course. I'm like, that has to be like the smallest sample. When has Fortes seen anybody? But all right, if you want to play Fortes, I don't think I will, but good for him. Something tells me it's going to break tonight. He's not going to continue to homer every single time he sees him. By the way, Kirk was in chat, and he was saying he's playing Cabrera on DK.
He actually said he's rostering Eric Johnson.
What? Is he? Yeah, Eric is in the pool?
Yeah, he's rostering Eric Johnson tonight over the Angels.
Oh boy, how much is Eric Johnson? I didn't realize is he 4K at least? I can't imagine.
Kirkwood, that's my guy, man. What's up, brother?
They are asking about the umpire stuff. I always got to give the same spiel when it's a bunch of new series. Obviously, it's a new series for everybody. this stuff can change. But as of right now, extreme hitters umpire for Griffin Canning. That's going to help out the old Oakland stack. That is, I don't think that's sneaky, right? I love Oakland today. Famous last words. Sonny Gray, extreme hitters umpire. Schwellenbach, extreme hitters umpire.
Since you brought up Sonny Gray, can I talk about Sonny Gray? Is that okay?
Yeah, let me just run these down. Just kind of fire them off, and then by all means go for it. Extreme hitters umpire. There's a bunch of them. Extreme hitters umpire for Canning, Gray, Schwellenbach, Sears, Flaherty, the Hound, Chris Bassett, Eovaldi, and Burns. All extreme hitters umpires. What do you have as far as Sonny Gray?
So I do want to talk about Sonny Gray because I know leading up to the All-Star break, what we were seeing from Sonny Gray is that he was starting to get knocked around a bit, Dean. And by knocked around, I'm not saying he was giving up 4 or 5 runs every game, but my gosh, the hits just started piling up. I mean, felt like every game he was giving up 6 to 8 hits. I think one game he might have gave up 9 or 10 hits. But what hasn't changed though is the strikeouts, Dean. And so I think I want to bring this up from just a tournament perspective. I do think Sonny Gray is a really huge tournament play today. This Atlanta Braves team, boy, do I love the Braves. But this isn't your mama's Braves here. Like this roster is totally different than what you saw at the beginning of the season. And as a result, Dean, like the strikeouts are there with this Atlanta Braves offense. Like we were talking about Seattle, and this isn't as bad as Seattle, but Kalenick's at 29, Riley's at 26, Olsen's at 28, Ozuna 23, D'Arnaud at 22, Rosario at 23, Duvall at 33. There are strikeouts in this Braves lineup. Does Sonny Gray give up some hits today? Probably. But does he pick up the strikeouts? I also think the strikeouts are going to be there. If Babbitt, and I know, but I'm saying in terms of these upper echelon pitchers, if Babbitt is on his side, Sonny Gray probably puts up 25 to 30 fantasy points today. I think he can get 7 to 10 strikeouts here against this lineup if he can stay clean and not get batted around. So while I do understand that we're going to see a ton of ownership on Garrett Cole, which I get, I think Sonny Gray is a tournament pivot, if you will. And I'm air quoting that because it is such a big slate. Nobody's overowned, but I do think Sonny Gray is a tremendous tournament play tonight for $200 more over a guy like Garrett Cole.
Almost definitely not going to get played on FanDuel because he's 10-4 over there. 10-7 Corbin Burns as well. And I goofed. I do want to clarify all those extreme hitters umpires that I ran down. There's actually one extreme pitchers umpire. I said it incorrectly. Burns and Eovaldi actually have an extreme pitchers umpire, the one and only Bill Miller for Eovaldi and Burns. Chop, a lot of names being thrown out there. Anything you want to add some color to?
I don't know. What do you want me to? You want me to start at the top, Dean?
Well, whatever you got. I mean, like we're talking about Sonny Gray. We're talking about
Sonny. I mean, the thing about tonight is it's gonna be weird because I think I can throw a lot of stuff out the window because guys just got a big long rest, and sometimes that's going to really help the pitchers coming back from if they were battling anything of an injury leading up to the All-Star break. They come out and they got their velocity back. So it's going to be interesting. I'm interested in a guy like Garrett Cole tonight, obviously. Although, let me check it. My memory, does my memory playing tricks on me? No, he's got some pretty good numbers against Tampa, just in general. I thought Tampa hit him around, but no, I like Garrett Cole. That's a pretty good price. I think he's going to bounce back. He has a nice rest here. Bassett, good shape. I like Michael Wacha. I like this mid-range with Bassett, Wacha, even Pivetta. I've been on this thing that I don't think the Dodgers are very good after maybe the fourth hitter in the lineup. So I don't mind Pivetta. We've talked about some of the other mid-range. Hunter Brown. I'll go back to Hunter Brown. Seattle is a fair matchup for him. What Hunter Brown did, Dean, was find himself a sinker, man, if you believe it or not. When he was getting beat around earlier in the year, he didn't have it. Alex Bregman saw it and said, you know what, you need to throw your sinker, man. Told him that after he got beat around one time. He started throwing the sinker primarily to right-handed batters, throwing it just strictly to right-handers. And what it does is, how it helps is against right-handers, all he had was stuff that was flowing away from right-handers. So even though it was good, sharp stuff, he's got a good repertoire. Like they knew they knew what zone it was going to be in. It was going to be off the plate for him, and so the sinker comes inside and handcuffs him. So it's like the perfect pitch to get right-handers out, and that's why the ground ball rate has gone up 10%. It went from 48% to 58% since he started throwing that thing. So that helps him. I don't think that's going anywhere. I don't think it's a fluky, great 2 months for him. I think it's legit. He's got great stuff and now found a way to get right-handers out. So that helps him. Yeah, I like this mid-range, man. All these guys we've talked about, I think, are in play. And so I'm trying to find somebody we didn't talk about, but maybe Michael Walker's the one guy we didn't hit on too much. This is just a matchup thing right here. Like it's an arm that got plenty of rest over the All-Star break. Should come back with a little life in it, and you get the Chicago White Sox. So that's a great price tag for him.
You see the White Sox lineup? You see who's in it? I didn't know. I was today years old. Nick Senzel is a White Sox? I don't know when
they just signed him over the break.
They signed it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm like, when did this? I saw Nick. And there's another Baldwin brother. There's Brooks Baldwin. He's not a big prospect. He's playing baseball today for the White Sox. That's always the 23rd ranked prospect in the Chicago organization. So, yeah, I don't really want to play Waka, but I think he's fine because this lineup for Chicago is pretty terrible. Several people in chat, at least one person in chat, was asking about it, saying Sears was scratched. I don't see that. What I actually saw was Oakland's official lineup getting dropped, and Sears was in it. JP Sears, it is. So I don't see where that news came from. If you have a source, please, by all means.
No fake news, guys. Come on, no fake news.
I mean, every once in a while stuff will sneak through, but I'm not really sure where that came from, James. And I think the intent was good, but I don't believe your information is correct. Yeah, by the way, the bat has a large reverse split for Hunter Brown. So I don't know if you saw that as well. You're talking about the pitch mix there for Brown. And either way, lefties, righties, Seattle does not discriminate. They will strike out versus whoever. There are some Ks on layaway. We're looking at 36% collectively as far as strikeouts. No, wait, that number is skewed because it has Luis Castillo in there getting one at bat and one strikeout. I don't know when that happened, but I guess that they have him batting 10th, which of course is not the case. Maybe I got to hit refresh if you guys saw that. And I assume that's kind of skewing up the percentages. It can't possibly be 36%, but it is still an absurdly high number. Flaherty is a tricky one. I don't think people are going to play him that much just because the matchup's not great. But again, highest K rate on the slate. Where do we currently have him as far as ownership? Yeah, 10%.
Yeah, I'm showing 10. The thing about Flaherty, Dean, is if he's pitching well, even if he doesn't have all the strikeouts, I mean, we've seen him go, 102, 103. I think I've seen him go as high as 108 pitches before. I'm not saying they're going to do that today, but I am saying, like, if he's rolling, they're going to let him go. He had a little back thing before the All-Star break, and I think, as we kind of looked at it, we just figured right before the All-Star break, get him out of there, let him get some rest, and he'll come back fine, I think.
It's like the Glasnow thing. It's a fake IL stint. I'm pretty sure what they did I don't know. I'm not privy to the medicals, but I feel like it's the same thing. I'm not really alarmed. Also, like, how many more starts does he have in Detroit? They have to move him. I mean, look, I assume they have to move him. This is a 1-year deal, I believe. He feels like an awesome loner. Again, he's been one of the best pitchers in baseball this year. So, they don't want to get him hurt, but they want to showcase him, yada, yada. I don't know what you can do with that information, but, just throwing it out there. I've not seen the rumors as far as where he's expected to land, but unless Detroit is under some delusion that 47 and 50, they're going to make a run and sneak into the playoffs.
Come on, Braves.
I just don't think the Braves have it this year, man. Acuna is not, and Strider are just not coming back, right?
Oh, Dean, that's rude.
Listen.
Well, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just trying to be a realist. I like Atlanta, but their two best players are probably not coming back this year, or they're officially not coming back this year.
Oh, no, they're done, so.
Yeah.
So what are we doing?
But, I mean, listen, you get Flaherty, that makes up for a lot of the Strider piece at pitcher. And now, if we can just find some offense in some of these tight divisional games, you got Sale, you got Flaherty, you got Freed.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's true.
I
would say this, Dean. I would say that outside of Philadelphia, like Philadelphia to me is the team to beat in the entire Major League Baseball.
No
but
doubt.
Outside of that, anybody, if it wasn't for Philly, anybody else could, like, I'm not like don't like the Yankees' chances. Baltimore has major weaknesses in the series. Nobody else from the American League is very good. And the Dodgers, I've been on this, their pitching is terrible and their lineup is top heavy. Like, if you make the playoffs, if somebody can do the dirty work and knock out Philly for you, I think you got a shot. So I think you take a chance, although it's going to be funny seeing somebody give up a whole farm system for a guy like Crochet and then he gets shut down after 20 more innings.
Well, I think if you're trading for him, you're going to be like, you know you're pitching, right? I don't think you trade for him and then shut him down. But like, I don't think
you might not have a choice.
He's
never thrown, hasn't he thrown? He's thrown like 71 innings in his major league career up to this point. And now he's already gone over that in one season. So it's not like you want to shut him down. You're going to trade like 5 good prospects and then you're going to get him there and he's going to be like, oh man, my arm is sore. And that's going to be that. So yeah, it sucks.
Was it Strasburg that Washington intentionally shut down while they were making a run? Is that what I'm thinking of?
They did.
And of course, they ended up getting hurt anyway.
Yeah.
They just didn't let him pitch. Interesting decision. I just pulled up the standings. Detroit 7 games back, by the
Braves
way.
are 53 and 42, by the way, like only behind, Philly, the Brewers, and the Dodgers overall, like in the whole NL, like generally speaking. So if they keep winning, they get in. Like, and so Dean, we've seen this. The Braves were hot last year, and they got into the playoffs and they cooled off. And like Chop was saying, and I know this isn't DFS, but we just like sports, right, Chop? We just like sport. If Philly just gets cool at the wrong time, like that's it. That's baseball. That's baseball. And
the A's can sweep the Phillies in a 5-game series. That's how you just get in. You just got to get in, and it's anybody's.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's better teams. Goofiness will happen. Okay, we got to talk stacks in a second.
Everybody's on my Braves right now. That's okay. That's why I'm saying, hey, we might have to get it done a different way. It might not be the offense this year. That's why we need to get as much pitching as you can, score a few runs along the way, and let's see what happens.
Atlanta currently with St. Louis. I just assume St. Louis is terrible reading STL's cards as tweets, but they're actually the second wild card as of right now. And then Mets are right there, Arizona right there. And that's the other thing is all these teams have a hard time figuring out their buyers or sellers with, the expansion of the playoffs outside of the Marlins and the White Sox. A lot of these teams can talk themselves into, well, I guess we can make a run. Remember the Angels didn't trade Ohtani? That was brilliant. Okay. Last word as far as pitchers. Anything else you want to get out to the people, Will, before we move on and start talking about some stacks?
I think what I want to get in is the Atlanta Braves just won a World Series like in 2021, I think it was. And so if you're telling me that the Phillies beat them in every postseason, Mr. Rocket Sauce, then don't tell lies, sir. The Braves do have a World Series in the past decade. So let's everybody just relax. We'll be fine. And back to DFS.
Final word as far as pitching. Well, before we move on and start talking about our favorite stacks of the night, we do a little bit of power ranking.
No, I think everybody understands what we're trying to do here, Dean. There's some upper tier guys. Coke, Gray, I think, are the best 2 in the 9K range. You drop down, and Flaherty, you drop down to the 8K range. You got Brown, you got Waka. I think those are kind of the guys that people are going to look at. Chop mentioned Pavetta. I don't want to overlook that. I think Pavetta, don't overlook what Chop is telling you guys. He slipped that in and but Pavetta, I think, has some strikeout upside. And in the 7K range, I absolutely like Sean Manaea. He's going to be, pretty much one of my favorite pitchers today.
Will, don't read the chat. Somebody's saying the Braves have not been good since David Justice. That's going to tilt you pretty hard. All right. Which is ridiculous, of course. Fun player back in the day, if you're old enough. All right. We are going to reveal today's tiers. Before we do so, I don't know the board. You guys don't know the board. We have a guest ranker. The guest ranker will be on later for Crunch Time. Crunch Time with Squirrel Patrol. We have, in addition to Squirrel, we have Derek Carty, CEO of the Bat and the Blitz, as well as Chief Mineralogist Kevin Roth. Maybe you can figure out which one of those three did the power ranking. You guys tell me, chat tell me, the best and worst. Well, it's already been revealed. There it is. Don't look at the board if you want to play the home version. But yeah, tell me the best and worst natural disaster movie in honor of Twisters. Twisters is released, going nationwide today. Chop, Will, best, worst natural disaster movie. What do you got for me?
I mean, I'm looking at the list. I feel like this is fine. Twister, you know, I mean, look, Twister was so good back in the day, Dean. It's got its own themed walkthrough ride at Universal Studios in Florida. Like,
it's still
like that's
open?
how, yeah, it's still open. Like, that's how good Twister was. Even if you go back, I mean, Twister came out in Dean, what do we want to say, 98, 99? Somewhere up in there?
It's about right. Yeah.
Okay, let's say, like, I can't remember exactly, but somewhere up in there. And I mean, I think I caught something on Twitter, or maybe
96.
96. Okay, so yeah, old movie, but the graphics were still fine. Like, look, they're not going to be today's graphics, so you have to judge accordingly. I do think there's a sliding scale in movie graphics, Dean, because you can't compare something from 85 to 2015. Two totally different things were happening, but just for that era, I think Twister was a really good movie, especially for those of you that have watched it or have not watched it. There's one really good scene where the tornado is just tearing up the barn, and the guy is like, you know, he's tethered himself or tied himself to like a pipe or something with his belt, and he gets to see the inside of the Twister. And like, so those types of graphics in the 90s to pull that off, I thought that was spectacular. So I'm going to agree, Twister, definitely a really good movie. Day After Tomorrow, I actually thought was okay, but clearly, no doubt, Sharknado should be at the bottom. I'm with you there 100%.
Poor Ian Ziering. Yeah, so by the way, I saw Twister for the very first time like 3 weeks ago. I saw it for the very first time on I think it was on Max or something like that. I'd never seen it before. I'm not a big action movie guy per se. Perfect Storm, seen that one several times. George Clooney, Mark Wahlberg, somebody else.
My bad, Nicholas. Nicholas said the Twister ride is closed now. It's a Jimmy Fallon ride. My bad.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was closed. I haven't been there for a while, but I feel like it had its run. And then like the late 90s, early aughts, there was a whole slew of those, like, you know, Dante's Peak, which was a volcano movie. I think there was another volcano movie just called Volcano with Tommy Lee Jones, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, Sharknado, the ridiculous sci-fi movies. That's Tara Reid and Ian Ziering, I believe, and then a bunch of like celebrity cameos. I don't know what number we're on as per Sharknado. I think there's like 3 or 4 out there at least. But yeah, Chop, any thoughts? Anything's the chat is upset that Armageddon was not acknowledged.
Armageddon should be number 1 to me. That's just me. Armageddon was pretty good, and I don't know the criteria for natural disaster, but first, Perfect Storm, fantastic choice. Love that movie. I don't know the criteria for natural disaster technically, Dean, but
yeah.
Deepwater Horizon with Marky Mark. I don't know. You know, it's about oil and drilling in the ocean and the oil.
Okay.
I don't know if that gets it, if that fits the criteria, because it might have been more of a man-made disaster. Who knows? You know, it's up for debate, but I like that one a lot too. So not that I would somewhere like in the middle of this list, I would put Greenland with what's that guy from Gerard Butler from 300? He was in Greenland. I like that one a lot. Yeah, there's some things on there that, you know, I would have changed it up a little bit, but it's pretty solid list.
All right, there's a couple. Snakes on a plane, that's not a natural disaster, right? I don't think so.
No,
come on, dude.
That movie was awful.
But I'm not saying if it's good or bad. I'm just wondering what's in the conversation. We could talk about it. But yeah, I have a couple more. Maybe we'll bring up when Roth jumps on later on. Okay. The chat.
So let me ask you about this one. How did you guys feel about San Andreas? That was a movie with The Rock, right?
I like it. I like that stuff.
Yeah, I thought San Andreas was good.
Also,
that one could have made the list.
Yeah. Will, hear me out. I don't know. Like I said, the criteria is a little bit fuzzy here. But
Natural disaster.
What about the Book of Eli? Because it was based on a natural disaster. Like the whole world
That's
changed.
post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, but it was based on. Okay, I get. So that's why I'm saying criteria could be fuzzy.
Yeah,
Book of Eli would be number one, no doubt. It was based off of the sun, a disaster with the sun happening, and that changed. So I get it, but
yeah, Book of Eli was good though. Definitely enjoyed that one. For sure.
Our guy Butto in chat says Freddy Got Fingered was the worst disaster movie. It was a disaster, but it wasn't a natural disaster movie. It just was a cinematic disaster. If you saw the Tom Green vehicle. All right. Speaking of, we flipped the coin backstage. Chop, you're going first. Chop, you go first. The very first game we're going to talk about is Tampa Bay and New York. Tampa and the Yankees. We're going to see a lot of low totals. That's going to be just the theme. Garrett Cole taking on Zach Eflin. Yankees are pretty big favorites here, minus 170. Not a huge total here. As far as team total, the Yankees have a 4.5. Tampa around 3.5. Combined, we're looking at an 8 total. Where would you throw the Yankees and the Rays?
Oh, Dina, this is going to be a sad board today because I do not like a lot of offenses. So there's going to be a lot of guys in these bottom three categories, and I'm putting the Yankees in the day after tomorrow. I just think, like their lineup is. I don't think it's even overrated right now. Everybody knows it's just kind of like a two-man show right there in the middle of the order with Soto, Judge. So I can just one-off Judge or one-off Soto and Phil. I don't need to stack them. They're just middle of the road. And I think Garrett Cole has a good game here. I got the Tampa in the Sharknado category.
Hanging out with Ian Ziering. Will, any issues with that?
No, I agree 100%.
All right, so we shall move on. Next game. Will, this is yours. Detroit taking on Toronto. Chris Bassett, Jack Flaherty. Again, mentioning Jack Flaherty, one of the best pitchers in baseball this season. Toronto pretty underwhelming, which is not the most swing and miss heavy lineup for him. We do have Bichette in there. Bichette's been dinged, kind of in and out. He's playing baseball today. Detroit, Toronto, only 4 lefties. I guess I say only, but some teams really load up lefties against Bassett. There's only 4 for Detroit. That's Keith, Green, McKinstry, and the switch hitter Perez leading off. Where do we have Detroit and Toronto, Will?
So I think Toronto, because I do think Flaherty dominates here, but I'm going to give them Dante's Peak. I don't think they're quite as bad as the Rays. And then in terms of Detroit, 1, 2, 3, 4. They've got 4 lefties. Bassett has struggled with lefties, but they don't have a ton. But I think because there's 4 in there, I'm actually going to put Detroit in Dante's Peak as well. I think they could score a couple runs here if these lefties can hit the ball today. Bassett has struggled for the season, so I don't think these are 2 of the worst teams on the slate for what it's worth.
Chopper, we got both teams hanging out. Dante's Peak, I believe that's Pierce Brosnan, if I'm not mistaken, the volcano vehicle. Any issues there, Chopper?
My pre-show rankings, this was the Mike Jones still tipping on 4-4 special because they're both in the 4-4. They're both 4-4s, man. 4-4. 4-4. They ain't moving.
Okay, what does that mean?
You've never heard the Mike Jones?
I just know people want to know who Mike. I just know who Mike Jones. That's for my Mike Jones. Is that
probably his first big one? I think maybe it might have been his first big one. Still tipping on 4-4s.
Yeah.
Come on, Dean.
Do I have to go to Urban Dictionary? Is that what I got to hit up? I don't.
No, it's just it has to do with cars and rims and tires.
That was my guess. I didn't know.
But since you throw a 44 out there, it's always going to remind you of Mike Jones still tipping on 4-4. So 4-4, both in the 4 category, Dean.
The chat's going to give me the business on this one for sure. All right, we shall move on. This is yours. This is a Chops board. Still waiting for somebody to hang out with Twister and Perfect Storm. No teams looking spectacular as far as the stacks. We kind of warned you that it's not going to be great shakes. Padres taking on Cleveland. Cleveland, that ballpark is playing better this year for what it's worth. We talked about how they've removed some of the, I guess it was signage hanging out there, and the homer the numbers have certainly spiked there in Cleveland this season. Waldron, the knuckleballer, taking on Tanner Bybee. Chop, where do you have the Padres? Padres, of course, still without Tatis and Cleveland.
Yeah, again, not great hitting stuff going on here. Cleveland for me, I'll stretch it out here and I'll move them up to the day after tomorrow category. It is a total crapshoot when you're dealing with a knuckleball pitcher. Like, is he going to be on? Because if he's on, they're not going to be good at all. But he has shown some weakness lately in the knuckleball game, and that could be a good stack. So I'm totally don't know what to do with those guys. So Cleveland's going to hang out in the middle category for me. San Diego is Tanner Bybee, I think, is pretty decent. I got him down there in Dante's Peak.
Is this my imagination, or do the graphics look different today? Like the white backgrounds? I don't know if producer Devin has his mic on or not, but maybe I'm just making this up.
Different producers. Yeah.
Okay, that's what's going on. All right, because I'm like, something looks different and it's throwing me off. I wasn't sure if it's like the backdrop changed or maybe the
Steve and I hot swapped today during the show. He had to go on vacation, so I'm finishing out the show for him.
Oh, I knew you were sneaking in. By the way, that is what color is that? What color is that shirt? Is that neon? What is that?
I think that's a safety chartreuse.
Safety chartreuse. I think that's like the Seattle Seahawks, like their alternate jersey color, kind of, sort of, somewhat. But that's a bold. Is that something we can get in the office at RG if we ever have? I
believe it is. Yeah, if you know a guy.
You could pull it off. I don't think I can pull it off.
Might be time to come work in the office a couple of days, Devo, to get some sprucing up here from my RG gear.
I think we just got a shipment of socks in too. So yeah,
make
your way over.
And I do like
get a
those
pair,
socks.
right?
No, it's them one at a time, Dean. And they are foot specific, so hopefully you don't get two rights.
You got to get a friend quickly. All right. Any issues there, Will? We're throwing Cleveland in the day after tomorrow.
Not at all. I do think that's the right call on Cleveland. You know, both teams are fairly low strikeout teams, but I would rank Bybee ahead of Waldron in terms of skills. I agree with Chop 100%, man. 100%.
All right, Will. No bias today from producer Steve. Just the Mets and the Marlins. Sean Manaea, Edward Cabrera. Again, the weird stuff with Cabrera out of his, he's got an awesome Sierra. He's given up so many home runs. It's small sample stuff. He's struck out a lot of guys too, but he's also walked way too many. He's getting barreled up when the ball is actually getting hit too. It's very, very strange. Terrible ballpark for hitting, obviously. Where do you have, Will, the Mets and the Marlins?
Marlins, Sharknado, just not enough power in this lineup, Dean. I just don't see, generally speaking, how they're going to be able to put the ball in play enough to score enough runs, because I don't see home runs in their future too often here with the lack of power against left-handed pitching. So Sharknado for the Marlins. And then in terms of the Mets, the Mets are going to be middle of the road for me. I think if Cabrera has a meltdown, they could pile up some runs. But if he happens to be on today, I think they still score runs, but I don't think they light the scoreboard on fire. They are in Miami, really good part for pitching. Historically, Dean, the Marlins pitchers have been better at home. Now this season, I haven't looked into their splits, but just in the past, Cabrera and Alcantara and oh gosh, I always forget this guy's name when I'm not
Luzardo.
Luzardo. Historically, those guys have just pitched much better at home. Let's see if that happens today, but. Mets in the middle and Miami at the bottom for me.
By the way, Robles playing baseball today for Seattle, so a little bit more contact. 20% strikeouts, only 20% strikeouts for Seattle. I think he's in there for more, if I'm not mistaken. But Chop, I didn't realize you're a gamer today. I'm seeing in the chat you're giving it a go. You're having some back issues. Hopefully you can work through it. But thanks for powering through. You struggling? Is it kicking in about an hour in?
I was just trying to point out that when I sit for a long time, man, the back gets really sore. So he's asking if I was stretching or dancing, but I'm actually stretching, man, because, painful. But as far as
5, do some jumping jacks if you want.
Yeah, if I wasn't on the show, I got a little alarm. You got to set it for every like half hour to make sure you get up and get the blood flowing. Dean, did you know the sitting is the new smoking, man? It's absolutely killing people out there.
Yeah,
So we got to get up and get more active people. Get your
Chop.
8,000 steps a day to reduce your heart attack
I hear it's 10,000. It's
possibility.
8,000.
8,000 will reduce your heart attack possibility by like 60%. So that's the magic number.
And that's roughly, if I'm not mistaken, Chop, I think that's roughly walking 1.5 miles a day, or somewhere up in that range, maybe 2. But like I think around a mile a day is like 6,000 steps. I think it is. So yeah, get those steps, and then Chop, you got to get you a. I got an add on for my office chair, man. I got the massager in that thing now with the heat that try to keep me loose. But get that thing in there, man.
That sounds good.
Is Chop playing? Is Chop playing college ball 25?
Oh man, I could not have anything else
Thank you guys.
I could not have anything else that lets me sit down and get, like between the DFS and looking at the computer and then the TV and the good shows and movies that are on constantly. If I had to bury my face into a football game for 2 or 3 hours at a time, my goodness, I wouldn't. I'd be dead in a couple weeks, Dean. That's not nice of you, Dean, to wish me death like that. That's just terrible.
No, I speak on behalf of the chat. I'm just a vessel, and they're asking.
I can't do it. But as it pertains to these stacks, Dean, I do agree with Miami being down there in the Sharknado. Don't like that. And the Mets, I don't have. I had them in 4, but perfectly fine saying they're a neutral 3.
It's interesting. I only jump in here when I have to break a tie, but I have the Mets in perfect storm. Like they're one of my favorite teams today because I think you can
even after Kirky said that Cabrera was going to be dealing today. Kirky knows his pitchers, man.
I've said it multiple times in this show. I think there's absolutely a chance Cabrera deals, but I also think there's extremes, and I think he's got extreme outcomes are bigger for Cabrera than most any other pitcher on the slate. And if my team's gonna get me 2 runs, they might as well get me 0 runs. So, but I think as far as teams that have a chance to put up 10 runs, the Mets are in the top 5 teams on the board. Does that make sense? That's kind of where I'm at.
No, perfect, fine, that's good, Dean.
And thank the chat, Dean, for clearing that up. 2 miles is about 8,000 steps.
Depends how big your strides are, right?
Yeah, but 8 times around the track. So my neighborhood, I live in a let's call it a closed neighborhood, Dean. Like they build all the houses, and then if you live here, you live here, and if you don't, like you're not getting in unless somebody sells their house, which is why we love the neighborhood so much. But our neighborhood is like pretty much a track. So if you walk 4 times, that's a mile, and so 8 times around the neighborhood, man, and that'll get you those 2 miles in. So everybody, get your steps in, man. It's very important. And I could even say, Dean, like. And I have been, making sure I get my steps in and stuff like that. But when I wasn't, like, I could tell the difference in how I felt day to day and week to week, stuff like that. So, I mean, you might not think walking is important, man, but just walking, enough. I mean, you just feel it in your body. Then you start eating a little better, eating some fruit, instead of that pizza. And then all of a sudden, man, your body just, it takes off like a well-oiled machine. At any rate, enough about the health talk. Back to baseball, where people are going to be, drinking beer and eating hot dogs.
I feel like this is a mixed message. Reminder: hit that like button, subscribe, turn on those notifications. Chop, we got to get the knockers out to the people. The old BBP algorithm play of the day. I'm not sure where we're at as far as likes. We got to get those up. And Will, don't say anything just yet. But I imagine you have some prop plays in your back pocket for the people as well.
Yeah, I got a few for sure.
All right. We'll give those out when we hit a certain number, certain threshold. Producer Devin, let us know where we're at as far as likes and what the actual, what's the goal? Is there a goal number we got to hit to unleash everything? What do we got?
Let's see. We're at 97. I think we're pretty dang close. Maybe get us up to over 100. That'll happen probably in the next 10 seconds.
Let's knock out St. Louis and Atlanta first. St. Louis, Atlanta. This is Will's board. Sonny Gray. You spoke glowingly about him, despite the fact he's taken on your Braves. You got Schwellenbach on the other side, who's been pretty good. I don't know if the numbers, like surface numbers, have been spectacular, but he looks kind of decent. 3.84 Sierra, 4.43 ERA, so a little bit unlucky as well. And again, it's not scalding in Atlanta either. I believe it's in the 70s or the low 80s. This is kind of the nature of all across the country today, at least all the games that we're playing. Nothing as far as the 90s when I've seen in weather, nothing really popping as far as weather edge either. What do we have? Atlanta and St. Louis, Will.
Yeah, Atlanta, man, they're actually not making the cut for me at the top because there is still some power in this lineup. They're going to be in 4 in Dante's Peak. And I'm actually going to have the Cardinals in the day after tomorrow. Schwellenbach has been fine, but I do think there's enough here with these lefties to give him some problems, Dean. You know, you look at Schwellenbach on the season. If he's going to struggle, it's going to be to the lefties. 208 ISO, 317 WOBA. And so, you know, they've got Burleson here, 243 ISO. Donovan, 151 ISO, but a 50% K rate. Newt Barr, 211 ISO, 18% K rate. Gorman, high strikeout rate, but a 221 ISO. And, of course, Siani here at the bottom. But either way, I think he's going to see enough lefties to give him some problems. And so I'll keep the Cardinals in the day after tomorrow. But I think Atlanta goes in Dante's Peak for me.
Chat let me know that Roth did make it a little bit dicier in Atlanta. It's now officially yellow-orange. So not panicking, but the weather got a little bit worse. I dropped the link in chat if you want to read that at your own leisure. Chop, any issues as far as where we'll put Atlanta and St. Louis? St. Louis right there in the middle with the day after tomorrow, the Braves with Pierce Brosnan, Dante's Peak.
Well, Dean, I would say I had the Braves in Dante's Peak. I had the Cardinals just because, like, we're really struggling to have any offense here. So I had the Cardinals up in perfect storm, but I could go either way with it. Before we move on, I did want to ask the chat, throw this out there. If you happen to know, like DK Pick 6, is there any site out there that gives you an export to CSV of all the player props for the day? It's so hard to aggregate and get on your own and scrape it from their site. I was wondering if anybody knew of any place that, gave you all the props on a CSV so you could look it over in that fashion. But I got them at 2 and 4 today here, Dean. Perfect Storm and Dante's Peak, but you can break the tie.
I would stick with St. Louis in the middle perfectly. They're not one of my favorites. I'm okay with Perfect Storm, but I would keep them in day after tomorrow. I can't answer your question, Chop, but I can say if you happen to have RG Premium and you dabble in the DK Pick 6 streets and you use Firefox, the Firefox extension, there's an RG Firefox extension that's free if you happen to have Premium, and it'll point you in the right direction as far as the best premium props and pick 'em projections for the day. Lots of P's, and it'll help you figure out what the best options are for that day. By the way, if you don't have RG Premium, you can get it. Go ahead and get it. Commit to 6 months. But the 6 months, you get yourself $250 right off the top, as opposed to going month by month by month by month. You go $250 off. If you commit to 6 months, you want to commit to 1 month, you get $40 off. The links in the description here. Commit to 3 days. You get yourself a 3-day pass for $19 and change. All right. Got to speed up just a little bit, boys, but let's go ahead. We did hit over the 100 threshold. So, Will, you want to give the people a taste, a couple of props you happen to like today?
Yeah, man, sure. And one of them is already gone, so obviously I won't give you that one. But I do like Sonny Gray tonight at 5.5 strikeouts. I've got more than that projection. I just think there's too many strikeouts in the Braves lineup for that not to happen. I've actually got Corbin Burns less than 5.5, and that was probably a little bit closer than usual. But Burns, his K rate on the season, Dean, is not as high as we're accustomed to. He's only at 23% on the season, 20% to lefties. He is going to see enough lefties, I think, to keep him, at a fairly low rate here. And then even this lineup in general, outside of Adolis Garcia, Dean, once again, low strikeout does not mean no strikeout. I definitely think he picks up some, but I think they can keep him below 6. So as a result, I've got Corbin Burns at 5.5. I want it less than those 5.5 strikeouts. Sean Manaea, of course, I think I've talked about that one, but he's at 5.5 strikeouts. I have more than that projection. And then if you're in the pick'em streets, one of my favorites today was Gavin Stone at 27.5 or 28.5 fantasy points. I think he was 28.5 on Underdog and 27.5 on Prize Picks, and I took less than that projection on both. Stone, not a guy that I'm expecting to blow the ball past anyone. And I do expect Boston to score some runs tonight. Hopefully they come out and continue to play well. So at 27.5, I did like less than that projection. And he was at 5 strikeouts on the pick'em site, so at least he was earlier. So if you're not as comfortable with the fantasy points projection, the 5 strikeout projection, I would take less than that one as well. Obviously, you have the option for a push there. If you push, then they'll just, the sites do slightly different things. But I do think the fantasy points ones, especially if they score some runs, I think that's going to be a good one for you. If they score 3 runs, Dean, I don't think he gets past, 27.5 strikeouts. If they score 4, he's definitely not going to pass it.
Chop, let's do a dealer's choice. Give the people one or the other right now, as far as the knockers or the old BBP suggestion. What do you got for them?
I think it's a pretty good opportunity to maybe get the BVP out of the way. Oh man, Dean, I tell you what, there was some with some pretty solid pitching means. There's some with some decent samples, so it was tough to narrow it down today. There was a few. I was waiting on the lineup here to make sure any of these guys were in there, but I haven't seen a lineup for any of these teams yet. So I'm going to give you the one I probably like the most at the most affordable rate. Actually, Freddie Freeman is in, but I'm not gonna. That's not the one I'm going with. I'm going with Brandon Drury. I hope he makes the lineup. Brandon Drury, BVP play of the day, Dean.
Suggestion.
Yeah, suggested play of the day.
Grant must be excited because Pete Alonso has got 3 homers off Edward Cabrera in 12 official at-bats. And your boy Jordan, not surprisingly, has got Castillo 3 times in 15 at-bats.
He was in the finals. He was in the final cut. Oh, the LA Angels lineup did come out. We do get Brandon Drury batting 6. They did not. We're coming out of the All-Star break and they're not playing Logan O'Hoppe. I don't get that one, but he's out of the lineup.
I don't. Yeah, it's like opening day lineups. It should be for most teams, but the Angels are not most teams. We got to pick up the pace here, boys, a little bit. Crunch time coming in about 5-10 minutes, depending on. All right, let's knock out 6 games left. Baltimore, Texas, 7.5 total. Eovaldi versus Burns. Expected pitchers duel. Of course, Baltimore, really good offense. Texas has some promise as well. Chop, where do you have Baltimore and the Rangers? I guess Burns, he did pitch in the All-Star game, but he didn't have to travel. He just stuck around in Texas, I presume.
Yeah. So Burns, he had to pitch an inning, so not that big of it. Was probably going to throw anyway on that day, so he said extended rest. I got the Rangers in the Dante's Peak category. I just don't like Stack. You kind of got to blow up, You kind of got to score some, have a decent game offensively. Even at his worst, I don't think they're going to smother Burns. So I got him way down there. Baltimore. Now this could go. I'm going to put, just because we're lacking, of any options here, I'm actually going Baltimore in the perfect storm. Not that I necessarily want to pick on Eovaldi, but it's not the playoffs. He's a good playoff pitcher, but he can have his inconsistencies in the regular season. So if there is a team that can explode, they've got a good offense. They've got the capabilities of making it hard on him. So that's there's just not much to choose from today, Dean, to put. I don't have a single team in the twister. So I'm stretching here and putting Baltimore in the perfect storm. Yeah, it's tough breaks.
Any issues, Bill, or shall we move on? Somebody is on mute. We're moving on. I saw a thumbs up.
I gave you the thumbs up. Yeah, good to go.
Oh, okay. There's the official mute count. If you can't see it, it's on the screen right now. Flexen versus Waka. Flexen, I guess, to Chicago, number 1. Not really, but whatever. Okay. Crochet on the market. We'll see. We talked about his innings will get limited. Over a 5 total for Kansas City. Just 80 degrees in Kansas City. It's not scalding there like it has been earlier times this year, but of course, Chicago worth picking on. Flexen, one of the worst pitchers, taking the bump. That bullpen, not spectacular either. A team total above 5. Chicago at 3.3 against Waka. They just added Nick Senzel, and again, Brooks Baldwin, I'm told, is professionally trained to hit baseballs. Not spectacularly, but he'll do his best. Well, this is your board. Chicago, KC, what do you got?
Yeah, KC, man, I know we've been struggling. I think it's our first twister of the day. They're going to twister, and I know Flexen has been, David Copperfield all season, but I don't care. This is not going to continue. So I like the Royals here. Hopefully they do what they're supposed to do. And then in terms of the White Sox, come on, Sharknado. I'm not, and they have a couple guys, but I think Walker's going to be able to limit this team today, so that they're going to go in Sharknado.
Chopper?
Yeah, that is Casey, I did not have up there, but I would absolutely, because we don't have any other options at this point to put up there, so I have no problems with it. I did have the White Sox down there, so yeah, I mean, flexing, like we're struggling here, man, to find a really good stack. We like this guy, doesn't strike batters out, gives up a lot of fly balls. None of the expected numbers are very good. Got to stack against him. KC coming off that break, maybe they come out hot like they did to start the season with that offense.
Yeah. Chop Coors 10.5 total, 5.5 total for San Fran, almost a 5 total for Colorado. Quantrill, Kyle Harrison. Where do you have the Giants and the Rockies?
All right, we got some life here. Finally, we got some life. I'm going San Francisco. This is the preferred matchup here, but of course their lineup can be a little bit weird, the way they platoon guys in and out and all that stuff. But I'm going to put San Francisco in the perfect storm. It's just a solid matchup against a pitcher that was overachieving to start the year, but it doesn't look so great right now. And Colorado, I don't mind the matchup. Harrison's been okay, but not great. I'll go ahead and put them in the perfect storm also, even though their lineup stinks. But they do have some young talent that if they get going, they're all right.
Will, any issues? If no issues, we'll move on for time constraints.
Nope. Next
Angels
game.
Athletics, 8 total. JP Sears, Griffin Canning. Where do you? It's obviously the ballpark stinks. Cavernous ballpark there. I think it was being played in a more hitter-friendly ballpark. We get a bigger total, but it is what it is. I don't see an Angels lineup just yet. I guess just dropped with no Logan O'Hoppe. A's are pretty cheap, and one of my favorite stacks, not to steer you in a certain direction, but Will, where do you have LA, the Angels that is, and Oakland?
Both of these teams going Dante's feet for me. Like, these aren't good baseball teams, so that's where they go.
Chop, you have any issues with this?
I would say I have a. So nobody's. What is that Chris Berman thing? So nobody's. What does he say? I forget what he says, man. But so I'm gonna say. So nobody's gonna play the Angels tonight, huh? Against a left-handed pitcher when their numbers look pretty damn good against lefties as individuals in this lineup. So I got those guys in the perfect storm because nobody's gonna play them, and I think they've got a shot here. Even though Sears is solid, but let's get crazy here.
You just told me, not right meow, but you told me like 5 minutes ago that Logan O'Hoppe is not in the Angels lineup. Is that correct? I'm trying to find it right this second.
That's what
what is that? He's not in there. That's nonsense.
I mean, it hurts, but I mean, the other pieces I think are really solid, so.
Rendon?
Well, has his career numbers, he's generally been a pretty solid split guy against left. Now he's kind of checked out of his entire career, but he's been all right. But,
that World Series, when he's out.
Taylor, don't get me started on that garbage. That was against my Astros. When we had a historical team, too, with a great offense, Garrett Cole and Verlander. All right, Taylor Ward's all right. Pilar's only in the big leagues because of the lefty thing. Drury, I like at the BVP thing going. Joe Adell's batting ninth. Like, Joe Adell's pretty solid against left-handed. There's some pieces in this lineup that I think are pretty good individually, so I think I can stack them.
The A's did call up Jacob Wilson, one of their bigger prospects. I think he was like a number 50 prospect in baseball, and DK did add him to the player pool in the middle of the day. If you got that email, he's not Stoneman. He is 3.5. It was interesting looking at his advanced numbers where he doesn't hit the ball very hard, but he was getting a lot of singles and just getting a high batting average for what it's worth. But we gotta move on right now because 2 games and crunch time's coming in any minute now. Chop, your Astros taking on the Mariners, 7 total. Hunter Brown, Luis Castillo. Let's be concise. What do you have as far as the Astros and the Mariners?
I'm going 3-5. 3 for Seattle because you just never know. Hunter Brown could get in trouble with the walks. 5 for the Astros because Castillo, I just don't see him getting smacked around. And if he does, there's a pretty good bullpen behind him if the game is semi-competitive, so don't like that stack.
Any quibbles, Will?
Negative.
Knock it out, Pavetta. Gavin Stone, 8.5 total. I don't think we have a Boston lineup just yet. If we do, I missed it. Must have just came in. But it's probably going to be standard because again, all these teams coming out of the All-Star break, it's essentially like a reset. You tell me, where do you have Boston and the Dodgers?
Yeah, Boston's going in Twister for me. That Boston's my top stack of the day. So this is the team I want to plant my flag on against Stone, and hopefully they don't disappoint. And then in terms of the Dodgers, I mean, they're going in the day after tomorrow, not day after tomorrow. Dante's peak for me tonight. I do think there's some value in Pivetta being a nice strikeout pitcher, and he gets past Ohtani, Smith, and Freeman, and then the strikeouts will come. If you pass them, the strikeouts will come. And so I think he gets it done tonight between 4 and 9 of this lineup.
Do want to clarify Joe Adell batting 7th for the Angels. 9-hole is Keston Hiura, another swing and miss theoretical power guy for the Angels, who's also super cheap. Chop, any issues here as far as Boston and the Dodgers, or we're good?
We are good.
2 teams up top in Twister. That would be the Royals and Boston. Perfect Storm has got 4 teams. That's Baltimore, the Giants, the Rockies, the Angels. Really surprised to see the Angels sneak up there, but it is what it is. Day after tomorrow, it's pretty good. It gets worse and worse because it's just we don't love the hitting in the slate. Yankees, Cleveland, Mets, St. Louis, Seattle, all in the middle, hanging out with Dante's peak. I believe that's Pierce Brosnan. That's Toronto, Detroit, San Diego, Atlanta, Texas, Oakland and the Dodgers. All right. And then Sharknado, that's the Rays, the Marlins, the White Sox, who always seem to be there, and the Houston Astros. All right, Chop, let's give the people knockers. We teased we gave them out the old BBP subjection of the day. How about I think we got enough likes. I'm pretty sure we got enough likes for that. What do we have as far as knockers tonight?
Yeah.
Are 2 people even going to homer tonight?
Yeah, it's a tough no, remember now, the knockers aren't necessarily home runs, Dean. They're just let's get
Well,
let's get on. Let's figure out how to get on base, get some points, maybe some steals, maybe some ribbies, and
call it something else.
Yeah, okay. No, Choppers, knockers, because you just knocked the ball. No, Dean, I got this. Don't worry about it. All right, it is a tough slate, and I did have to stretch here because this is there was nothing that was really standing out to me. But we got KC up top, so I'm going to go with the KC theme here and go Hunter Renfroe, Vinny Linguini. They're close enough in the batting order and cheap enough, basically. We'll go with them to put up a pretty good game here.
Vinny Linguini, Fettuccine Friday. Of course, that's Vinny Pasquantino. Without further ado, we have Crunch Time. We got Chief Mineralogist Kevin Roth. We have Squirrel Patrol. We have Derek Carty. Let's bring him in. Right meow.
Three meows. That's good. Good stuff.
That going on. I caught it at the last second. I saw it in chat. One of them I might have said accidentally, and I said, "Oh, I'm just going to run with this. Let's have a good time." Speaking of having a good time, Roth, I hit you up with a message earlier in the day. So full disclosure, I sent out a tweet and I said, "Listen, tell me what we should rank as far as our power rankings." And I got some suggestions. The problem was they came a little bit too late, and I probably sent the tweet too late. So we'll have to do that another day. If you guys ever want to give us a suggestion, if we use that suggestion, again, if it's through the tweet and all that, we can get you a week free of RG Premium. If you use that suggestion that day. But Roth, to celebrate the release of Twisters, I know you're a big fan of Twister. Oh, let's hit up Roth, and I figure this is your wheelhouse. Maybe you can power rank natural disaster movies for us. And that was your board. Do you want to explain your board? I'll tell you what the people are most upset about.
Well, let me explain first. I'll start with there were a few things that I was a bit tied up on. There's the board, Twister at the top, The Perfect Storm. Those 2 movies are both phenomenal, but Twister is the greater movie. It inspired an entire generation of meteorologists. So Twister gets the nudge over Perfect Storm there, gets the nod. Day After Tomorrow is just your quintessential average, natural disaster movie, perfectly in the middle. Dante's Peak, that's not a very good movie. You can watch it, but it's not very good. I almost put in Volcano, which is a similar movie, but I low-key
Tommy Lee Jones.
With Tommy Lee Jones, but I low-key kind of love that movie. So I didn't know where to rank it because I think most people think Volcano sucks. I disagree. So I just held that one back. And then Sharknado, like, have I gotten drunk and watched Sharknado many times? Yes. Yes, I have. But it is truly a terrible movie. The one thing that I really got tied up on was whether or not to include Armageddon. In the end, there's no disaster in Armageddon. There's almost a disaster, right? There's an asteroid that almost hits.
Disaster averted, but it's still a natural disaster movie.
It's like a movie about.
Spoiler, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah, right. That's true. I just didn't think it qualified fully as a natural disaster movie, as there is no disaster that happens on Earth. It's just an asteroid. It happens all up there. So it did not make the cut.
I'll give it to you on a technicality, because that really, without the technicality, that should be in there and that should be top line.
I agree. Look, I agree. It's a great movie. And if there were a disaster on Earth, it would have been in and it would have been up there. But it didn't happen, so I cut it.
Thomas reminding us that Paris got hit in the beginning of Armageddon. So did you just have something against the French? Is that what it is, Roth?
I kind of remembered. I had to Google. I was like, did the asteroid ever hit? Maybe there was like a pre-asteroid. I couldn't really remember. But anyways, didn't make the cut for me. It's a good movie. It would have been towards the top had it made the list.
Was Titanic considered?
No, an iceberg.
Not a
is
disaster,
not a
or just you don't care for?
It's an iceberg. That's not a natural disaster. We can go look at icebergs right now. They're not disasters. They're just there.
Don't Look Up was another one I had on my list. Outbreak is that a natural disaster?
No.
I think so. I don't
That's
know. Deep Impact. Remember Deep Impact? That was the bootleg Armageddon.
Yeah, wasn't that the oil rig thing? Or no.
I think
What's
so.
that? What was the oil rig?
That's
one?
Deepwater Horizon.
Deepwater Horizon. That's what I was thinking of. Deep Impact, middle of the list, could have been there. Yeah, there's a lot of varying degrees to natural disaster movies, man. Some real good ones and some real shit ones too. So it was a fun list to make.
The other one I had was it wouldn't have made my list, but Hard Rain. If you remember the Morgan Freeman movie,
I do remember that, and that one was considered. Yeah, I was kind of young when I saw it, so I didn't fully remember it.
And then I recently saw The Impossible, which is about the tsunami in Thailand. That scene of like 5 minutes, whatever it is, was amazing. That was really well. It's a good movie overall, but just whatever, they made that look spectacular. But yeah, you ever see The Impossible? It's worth watching.
No, I'll watch it though. Yeah, that sounds good.
Were you joking, by the way? What do you got, Devin?
I just wanted to jump in for the squad ride people that are hungry for some bets today. Kyle just dropped his bet. I'll just get it to everybody here quickly. Corbin Burns under 5.5 strikeouts. Should be able to get it plus 100.
Nice. Get it now before everybody pounces. Were you being serious, or was that kind of a joke? Did Twister really inspire you to be? Did you want to be a meteorologist before you saw Twister, or is that kind of the same time, or what?
Kind of the same time. Not so much me, but probably more than half of meteorologists my age were inspired by Twister. Like, it literally inspired a generation of meteorologists and scientists. So it's big time. It's big time for us atmospheric science nerds.
Squirrel, did you want to chime in? Any thoughts here? Any omissions? Anything you want to double down on?
I'm actually still hung up on the idea that Chopper's knockers are not home run calls.
Yes.
That's like the fire emoji, just meaning like, oh,
Damn
it's just as confusing.
Chop's base knockers is not as catchy. Like, base knockers.
Well, you have to go back and look at the episode in which it originated. And there's a big explanation, but it is what it is.
Fair enough. We should make way. It's an 11 gamer. A lot to talk about. Roth, you did upgrade the risk there in Atlanta. I'm not panicking just yet, but I do want to get your clarity on that. Myself, Will, Chop, we thank you all for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Enjoy the weekend, but do not go anywhere. Because you got 40 minutes of nonstop MLB DFS conversation starting right now. Taking your first pitch, you got Squirrel Patrol, Kevin Roth, Derek Carty. Roth, take it away.
Good stuff. As always, welcome to it, ladies and gents. You know the drill. It's crunch time. We're going to take you up to lock. We might take you through lock. Going to give you some pitchers, some stacks, some hitters, some home run calls, maybe even the best bet of the day, according to the bat. And I'm joined by two of the sharpest minds in the biz. It has been a minute, gentlemen. I hope you had a good all-star break. We got my guy Squirrel in the house. What up, bud?
Yeah, not much. Good to have baseball back. Tried to dabble in some golf. Never goes well. But I guess it didn't go well for anybody. So, good to have baseball back.
It went well if you followed the weather forecast and went with what was the wave? I don't know. One of the waves did a hell of a lot better. It was PM Thursday, AM Friday. That was the wave. Squirrel, did you listen to my Gulf forecast?
I did not, and it burned me. Burned me like a fire emoji.
Yeah. Damn it. All right, that's fair enough. It did work out pretty well. I did post a fresh update if some people are joining for just the weekend or they want to know what weekend weather is. You can check out the PGA weather page and get an update there. Spoiler alert, it is not as exciting as what we saw today and even yesterday, but probably worth a read. We got Derek Carty. He's always worth a read. What up, Carty? How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself? I missed you over, I guess it's been a couple weeks at least, actually.
It's been a minute. Yeah, good to have you back here. Did you enjoy your all-star break? Was it like a vacation, or are you just locked in upgrading the bat during your time off?
Normally it's upgrading the bat. I took a little trip to New Orleans, so that was fun.
That's right. That's excellent. I should have made the drive, man. Were you just tearing up Bourbon Street? I can't fathom you like in Bourbon and Frenchman Street. Were these good times?
Yeah, I mean, I have a good time there, but I mean, also New Orleans, like the food scene is just so incredible. So a lot of the trip was that.
Yeah, I cannot agree more. Next time we gotta chat. We gotta talk about some of our foodie spots there. But we need to dive into this slate here. We're getting a little bit of a late start, and I still have to talk about my weather concern game, which just gradually through the day has been looking incrementally worse and worse. Like I started this morning thinking it's not an issue at all, and now I think it kind of is a little bit of an issue. The main overall threat, the thing I'm most worried about, is in the anytime from the mid innings on, storms could build in, and that could be the end of the game. So there's a chance that the game does not go 9. There's a chance the game does not go 6.5, or what I think they need 5.5 to get a full game. That's a legitimate threat. Adding on top of that now, a little pop-up storms have just started popping over Atlanta now. Now those are going to clear, and we'll have this window still. But if they late start because of the full showers that are popping up now, then we are increasing the likelihood of the game getting cut short by storms that will almost definitely arrive late. Pulling up the old Twitter. If you're not following me at KevinRothWx, what are you doing? Oh, that doesn't look right. That's the last tweet shown there from 2016. Yeah, I wouldn't look at that one. That's my account, but those are not accurate. Anyways, that's the bottom line there in Atlanta, is that if you are playing cash, I think avoid it. I was looking at the tier ranking. Doesn't look like any of those teams are great. If you want to play tournaments, I say go all in or don't. And I do think pitchers are safer than bats in that you only need maybe 6 innings from your pitcher, whereas bats, you probably want 9 innings. And I think the chance of an early in-game delay is low. That's what I've got. Carty doesn't like it. He shook his head. He's frowning. He's frowning and shaking his head. Carty, you okay with that?
Yeah, sorry, I was actually responding to something else. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I think that's fine.
Okay. Squirrel, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's not a really high priority game, but it's good to know. I mean, I think I'd probably be more interested in the bats than pitchers anyway.
Yeah. Jake says, so go all in or don't. Low, yeah, kind of. I think that's the move. You don't want to just take a one-off or two from a game that you might not get the 9 innings. Either take them out and put them on the table, or just step away and say, we'll wait for, pick another spot. That's pretty much where I'm at on that one. And that's it. That's the only weather concern. There's no really exciting temperatures. There's no really exciting winds. So with that, I will monitor this game. I will certainly update it before first pitch. There's a chance we hear about a late start. If I see any of that, I will let you guys know. But that's it. I'm essentially washing my hands of that game for now, and we'll circle back towards the end of the slate here. And we'll dive into what we've got going on. I assume, Carty, that because it's a bit of a reset after the All-Star break, everybody's got their aces going, and this is an awesome pitching slate, but maybe I assume wrong. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, there are definitely some aces going, but it's definitely not everybody. Some of that's just going to have to do with, rest and how stuff lined up for the All-Star game and who pitched in the All-Star game and all that kind of stuff. So it's actually not as good of a pitching slate as you would hope. The top guy on the slate theoretically is Garrett Cole. He's facing the Rays, who are not what they used to be. Garrett Cole, theoretically, I keep saying theoretically because we're not really totally sure right now, is really good at baseball. But he's only made 3 starts, I think, since coming off the IL. His stuff plus has been down in those starts. So I don't know if he's necessarily that much better than the rest of the guys on this slate, but he is going to be a lot higher owned. So in tournaments,
I mean, the pitch count looks good. We know he is theoretically great. The price looks pretty good. The matchup against all of that is appealing, right?
It's all appealing, yes. But just to put it in simple terms, let's say Garrett Cole normally throws 98 miles per hour. Now he's throwing 95. That's, he's not really the same guy.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think a projection is going to be overstating who he is at this moment. Another couple of starts, maybe the rest will come off. He'll be fine. But right now, the bat has him as the highest guy. Projection wise, ownership wise, I think at that ownership, I'm probably not super interested in tournaments. I think in cash, you probably just play him.
And Carty, could I really quickly, Rangers fan in the chat says his stuff plus ? Could you give a 30-second description of what that means for people who aren't aware, which is kind of myself?
Yeah. So Eric Johnson says stuff plus is on Fangraphs. It is. It basically looks at a pitcher's, what we call their stuff, basically the physical characteristics of a pitch, the velocity, the spin, the movement, that kind of thing. So I'm currently in the process of developing my own that will go into the bat. It's not ready yet, so the bat is not accounting for it. But the one at Fangraphs called Stuff Plus is definitely pretty good.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Other pitchers. This is when we talk about other pitchers. Yeah. Other than
got Cole. It. Yeah, that's what we do now. Okay, so after that, I think you kind of have a tier of Luis Castillo, Hunter Brown, Corbin Burns, Nathan Eovaldi, that are all kind of just fine. No one's really that great today. Of those, Eovaldi and Burns project for the lowest ownership, so I probably have the most interest in them in tournaments. But Castillo and Brown are cheapest, so I have more interest in them in cash. The bat likes Castillo more. From reading Discord and stuff today, it seems like more people are going to be on Hunter Brown, but that just makes me like Castillo even more in tournaments. I think he's the better pitcher. The matchup's a little bit tougher, but he's still really, really good. After that, there's plenty of guys you can take shots on, but I think if you're doing anything else, it's probably going down and playing a cheap Edward Cabrera or a cheap Sean Manaea or something like that.
That's it? That's what you got?
Yeah, that's what I got.
That's fair. A decent amount of options. And Squirrel, I'm intrigued to hear if you have kind of that same core, or if maybe you're looking at some other guys, or maybe you have someone much higher up than where Carty has them.
I think I like Garrett Cole a little bit more than Carty. Just that his velocity has been increasing each start, which is promising. And I think he's a little bit mispriced. I think he's the highest projected pitcher, but he's not the most expensive pitcher. And I think he's fourth most expensive on DraftKings or sixth most expensive on FanDuel or vice versa. So I do think he's a little bit mispriced. I think the next best pitching option after Garrett Cole is Hunter Brown. He's facing Seattle, who just likes to strike out a ton. I think if I'm not going with, and I agree with after Cole and Brown, I think there's a collection of guys. They're all pretty good. They're all about the same price. I think if I'm not going with Garrett Cole or Hunter Brown, I think I might want to just drop down dramatically in price and go with JP Sears, who's really cheap. He's facing the Angels, or go with Edward Cabrera, who's really high upside, walks a bunch of guys, gets blown up a lot, but he has the potential to have a really, really good game. I think I would want to drop down completely in price tiers if I'm not going with Garrett Cole or Hunter Brown. I think overall today, and I think this is actually true for the offense as well, I like the chalk today a little bit better than I normally do. I think that just with the break, I think pricing came out a little bit earlier. So we're getting a little bit more of an edge on projections versus price than we normally do.
Interesting stuff. Okay. Chalky squirrel. This is not something that I'm used to seeing here. Let's flip it and talk about some of those bats and some of the stacks. Was watching Grinders Live before us, and they really didn't have a whole lot that they loved. What are your favorites, and where are you targeting?
Sure. So there is a game in Coors Field, and like I said, I'm a little bit more inclined to go with the chalk than I normally are. We do have a lot of good top pitchers, so a lot of teams will kind of reset the rotation, and as a result, we don't have a bunch of really high implied run totals. What we do have is a game in Coors Field, which is going to naturally have a higher run total than the other games. So I think my two favorite stacks are the Giants and the Rockies. And that's not very creative, but I do think they stand out a little bit more than they do on a normal Coors Field slate. I think if I'm not going with the Giants or the Rockies, I like going to like the Dodgers. I kind of like going to Oakland. Oakland's actually got some guys that have been hitting very well over the past month. And with a younger team, I'm more inclined to go with like improvement within a season, I think, than just, this guy is hot over the last 30 days. And let's see, if I'm not going with any of those teams, probably the Royals, or something I'm going to prioritize, I think, tonight and going forward, maybe even for the rest of the season, is like really spending up for some of these top bats. Like Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani are having tremendous seasons. I think I'm willing to spend up for them as one-offs, even if I'm not going with like a Yankees or a Dodgers stack. And Yordan Alvarez is kind of in that range as well, especially facing a right-handed pitcher that I'm going to be more inclined to spend up for him, even if I'm not going with an Astros stack.
Okay. Squirrel, are you worried about being too chalky if you're going Cole and Brown and Rockies and Giants, or are you trying to get different somehow with that build?
I think that as we go forward, like through the season, I think you see less ownership on chalky stacks because I think a lot of people that go with chalk earlier in the season maybe drop out as the season goes on, and you get less people playing chalk as you get to the end of the season. That's just kind of my own personal theory, but basically, no, not really not as worried, especially tonight, about being too chalky.
General theory being, if you are a chalk donkey, you will have gotten your ass kicked up to this point in the season. You will have dropped out because you're not making any money. And so the people who are still playing MLB at this point in the season are more experienced players who are more cognizant about ownership, and thus the ownership gets spread out more evenly than it would have if this was the first month of the season.
Yes. I don't have a ton of data or math on that, just anecdotally.
Okay. I love that take. I think that makes a lot of sense. Interesting stuff. Carty, talk to me about your favorite stacks. I assume you as well are kind of focused on Colorado as the top, and then there's others.
Yeah, Coors is definitely our top two, the Giants over the Rockies. After that, it's a lot of stuff that looks the same. You have Dodgers, Royals, Yankees, Mets, like a whole bunch of stuff is viable. Squirrel mentioned the A's, who I definitely like, and I like the Angels on the other side of that game as well, as kind of like cheap stacks, get you a little bit different. That's kind of offense today. It's kind of a little boring.
Yeah, how many teams did you list? 4? Is that, you just give me 4 teams?
I think I listed a few more than that, but
okay. All right. I missed it. Either way, not great. Let's go position by position. We'll talk about some plays around the horn. But first, make sure you are getting ahead of the competition with RotoGrinders Premium. We've got an option for whatever you're looking for. 6-month combo subscription, exclusive price of $469.99. That'll save you $250 as opposed to doing it month by month if you're just going with individual combo premium. And if you're not a fan of that kind of commitment, you can get a month of RG combo premium for $120, or you can test run, dip your toes in the water. 3-day pass is $19.99. I went to the food court the other day, and I went to one of those, like, I think it's called Sarku, Japan, just one of those like Asian places in the food court. My meal was $19.99 just for lunch. And I thought to myself, I could have had 3 days of combo premium for the cost of this one lunch that's going to make me feel terrible after I eat it. So make the right choice.
I'm starting to really love your food comparisons to the pricing tiers for the 3-day pass.
What
does it cost?
Yeah. When it hit $19.99 on the button for my meal, I was like, oh man, I'm bringing this up tomorrow.
Sarku Japan, you just made the list.
You're right. Sarku Japan, you're in. So yeah, honestly, I do feel it's a tremendous deal, especially if you haven't tried out RotoGrinders Premium, $19.99. You can really get a sample. Then you're going to play with all our toys and our projections, and you're going to be like, yeah, I want that. I want that 6-month deal. Let's go around the horn, Carty. Start me off with the little catcher talk, if you don't mind.
Top tier tonight is Salvador Perez and Will Smith. They're both in really good spots. Salvi's quite a bit cheaper, so I think he's the guy that makes the most sense to get up to. He'll be the guy I think that is higher owned. I think people will throw Patrick Bailey into that conversation just because he's in Coors Field and he's hitting fourth, and obviously that's great. But he's really just not anywhere near the caliber of hitter that Salvi and Will Smith are. So if I'm going to pay almost $5K for a catcher, I'll take Salvi over Bailey, and he'll come at lower ownership. So I like him quite a bit. If you need to save a little bit of money, you do have Elias Diaz on the other side of Coors, who I think will go a little overlooked. You have our good old friend Langelier for Oakland tonight. I mentioned liking cheap Oakland stuff. You have Freddie Fermin as another option for KC for 3.1K if you're not spending all the way up for Salvi. And that's catcher.
Okay, Squirrel, any other names you want to throw in there?
Yeah, I don't think Carty mentioned Hunter Goodman. He's hitting ninth, so it's not ideal. But, he's probably going to see minimal ownership as a result. And if he hits a home run, you don't really care that he hit ninth, but he is probably going to get like one less plate appearance. Adley Rutschman to be different. But I will also just note I do like Shea Langelier as much as any other catcher, and he's much cheaper than pretty much anybody else at the top of the list.
Fair enough. I love how we've just fully gone with this fake French pronunciation of this poor guy's name to the point where anyone watching just assumes that's his real name, and I like it that way.
Or that we don't know how to pronounce his name.
Yeah, or that we have no idea what we're doing, and that's fine too. But it's just more fun than Langoliers. That's the bottom line. It's just more fun. Squirrel, take me to first base. What do you got there?
So I think Shohei Ohtani stands out, far above everybody else. And like next best is probably the Dodgers' other first baseman, Freddie Freeman. After them, I like Michael Toglia at 4,300. He's another Rocky that's hitting towards the bottom of the lineup. Only 4,300. You can go with like Paul Goldschmidt. Lamont Wade is hitting second for Giants in Coors Field. It's not a bad position to save some money at either. Seth Brown and Jake Berger, both first base eligible, although I might like them better as salary savers at their other positions, which are outfield and third base respectively.
Okay, very good. Carty, I heard noises in the background. Is there some sort of natural disaster happening right now that we need to be aware of? It's very loud. I'm worried. Are you safe? Are you okay?
I'm good. It's not that loud. My phone's on the other side of the table from the microphone.
It's
somebody in chat goes burr burr in the house.
Yeah, it's hilariously loud. Are you wearing socks and shoes right now?
No.
Okay. All you need to do is just take any article of clothing. It could be a sock. You put it down on the table and then put the phone on top of the article.
I got it on top of some paper, so
that's not going to help. No, you need
that
needs to be
the same
something
thing.
soft. A sock, a shirt.
Oh, you know what?
Anything like that.
I got a pair of socks right here. Not wearing.
There we go.
Hey, if you don't have the socks, take the shirt off, Carty.
That's right. There's already 3 buttons down. There's only like 1 or 2 left, and the shirt's off. This is great.
The phone is on the socks.
Okay, this is exciting. I am excited to hear the next burr burr and see how much quieter it is. So I'm pumped for the next bat update or whatever the hell happens.
We'll find out.
Okay, I'm sorry for the distraction. First base, Carty, what do you got?
I want to mention that on FanDuel, where you don't have to play a catcher, Salvi and Will Smith are probably better than every first baseman on this slate. So I'm totally fine with playing a catcher in the first base spot on FanDuel. Otherwise, though, a lot of what Squirrel said, Ohtani and Freeman are great. I think Vlad and Pete Alonso will probably come in a little lower owned than they probably should tonight. But really, this is a spot where I think saving some money makes sense. You have Ben Rice leading off for the Yankees. You have Seth Brown really cheap for Oakland. You have Andrew Vaughn for the White Sox. And then the guy that I probably like the most is our other Frenchman, Jake Berger.
Okay, very good. That brings us to second base. Carty, you get to lead us off there.
Yep. we have the Colorado stuff, which is probably what you're doing in cash games here, at least on FanDuel. You have Thairo Estrada, you have Brendan Rodgers. They're both really, really cheap on FanDuel, 2.6 and 2.7, and they're in cores, and so you don't really have to overthink it. Where they're a little more expensive on DraftKings, and they are kind of buried in the order, I don't think you have to go up to them. Like, there are other ways to play second base, but I think if you are spending up at second, they're the top guys. Like, I like them more than Semien. I like them more than, I mean, really, we don't have a whole lot on this slate that's actually good, but which kind of leads me to my point of punting second tonight, I think is totally viable. You have Otto Lopez, you have Chris Taylor, you have Brandon Drury. Like, it's a bad position tonight on DraftKings. And if you just want to just spend 2.5K at the position and move on, like, that works.
Yeah. Okay, great. Squirrel, your thoughts at second? Are you punting there as well?
Yeah, it's a play whoever you want position. I like probably Zach Geloff the best. He's 3,700. He's hitting 6th for Oakland. Oakland is really good, especially on DraftKings for the salary. So Zach Geloff, Jorge Polanco, Brandon Lau is an interesting Lau.
We don't know. Nobody knows.
There used to be a new moniker, right? Like,
yeah,
like Low and this, then Lau. And, okay. Brandon Lau. Brandon Lau is actually interesting because he's hitting against Garrett Cole, so he'll see minimal ownership. David Hamilton. I don't know. You can save money. Otto Lopez hitting is 2,600. He's hitting 6th for Miami. There's just not much of the position.
Play whoever you want.
Yeah, it used to be I could. Did I get to play whoever you want?
Play whoever you want.
Yes. No, I used to remember the Lau versus Low because Nate Dogg, the rapper, has a very low voice. So it was Nate Low, and then the other guy was Lau. But now I think there's a third in the mix, and now I don't know what the hell's going on. Now I can't keep them straight, and now I just give up. Essentially, I just say Low/Lau every time because I'm not going to be able to remember. I'm not sharp like that. Squirrel, do you have some sort of mnemonic device or no?
I think it's Brandon Lau. I think it's Nate Lowe and Brandon Lau.
Yeah, we could just remember it. That's one. Yeah. That's one option, I suppose. Squirrel, taking me to third base.
So I think third base. I think by far the top option, price not considered, is Rafi Devers, and I actually don't think he's going to see as much ownership as he should. But part of that is also because he's really expensive. Anthony Rendon is super cheap, can potentially just not hit anymore. But he is leading off for the Angels. Jake Berger's probably better than Anthony Rendon. He's $100 cheaper. I do like Ryan McMahon, even though he's lefty on lefty in Coors Field. If you're really trying to save money and don't want to play Anthony Rendon or Jake Berger for some reason, probably Brandon Drury is probably the best option.
Okay, great. Carter, your thoughts at third?
Chapman's the guy you're playing in cash because he's against Quantrill in cores and he's really good and you want Matt Chapman. But I like Berger again here. I like Brandon Drury as a cheaper option. In tournaments, I think guys like Jose Ramirez, Rafael Devers, I think they probably go overlooked tonight. I like them quite a bit. That's what I think at third.
Okay, how about shortstop?
Bobby Witt is projected laughably higher than everybody else today. On FanDuel, he projects for 16 points and the next best guy's 12. Like, he's just so insane. Like, you want to get up to Bobby Witt in cash today. He'll also be super high owned on both sites in tournaments. So you're probably going to be looking at some pivots as well. You have Tovar in cores who, because Witt is on this slate, probably won't actually be super high owned because so many people are going to play Witt, I think. So I like Tovar quite a bit. Corey Seager, even though he's against Corbin Burns, like, nobody's going to play him today. And after you get past Witt, like, he's not that much worse of a play than anybody else. And he's going to be like 1 or 2% owned. So I like Seager a lot in tournaments. If you need to save money at the position, there's not really a whole lot. You have a really cheap Max Schumann for Oakland. If you're doing the Oakland thing, you have a cheap Zach Neto if you're doing the LA thing. But really, like, try to get up to Bobby Witt.
Yeah. Okay. Squirrel, you spending up here?
I probably don't like Bobby Witt as much as Carty. 6,300 on DraftKings. I mean, I'm not like super against him. I have him by far as the highest projected shortstop. I just think there's a lot else to like at the position. Ezekiel Tovar for $1,800 cheaper is really tempting. Like Gunnar Henderson as a similarly priced pivot is tempting. And then Francisco Lindor, I think I put him on the expert survey as the guy I'm most afraid to be under the field on. Like I like the idea of going for the high upside Edward Cabrera more than playing the Mets stack, but Cabrera can totally blow up, and if he does totally blow up, like Francisco Lindor is leading off, so he'll probably be part of that blow up.
Sure. Okay, makes sense. Take me to the outfield, Squirrel.
Yeah, I think I want to be over the field on Aaron Judge the rest of the season.
I love that.
Until he, unless he gets hurt or something like that. But
Yeah.
he hits right-handers at home better than he hits almost anything else, if that makes sense. Like better than I think the next best thing is like lefties on the road, and then it's like lefties at home, and then right here, something like that.
It's all
but
good, but that's his elite thing.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he like murders right-handers at home, and like it's just and it is like some of it's statistical, and it's a career thing. But like some of it's also just anecdotal. Like every time I turn on MLB TV and he's facing a righty at home, he like just murders some baseball. And like Zach Eflin is like a good enough pitcher that people aren't going to want to pick on him, but he's not so good that Aaron Judge can't hit like 2-3 home runs. So I like Judge like a little bit better than Ohtani overall as like the best player on the slate. Although Ohtani is right there behind him. Juan Soto is literally right there in front of him in the order, and it's probably like the third best outfielder. And then Yordan Alvarez, I think if you're spending up and want to do the thing where you target like really low ownership but high upside, I think Yordan Alvarez is a guy. Jorge Soler and Brent Rooker are just a little bit behind them in terms of like raw projection for me. If you're trying to save money, I think like Oakland guys like Lawrence Butler and Seth Brown, or you can maybe go with Joe Adele for the Angels. Let's see who else. Maybe Hunter Renfroe for Kansas City.
Okay, very good. Sounds like a lot of options in the outfield. Carty, I'm going to let you go, and I'll warn everyone, I'm going to be riding the mute button. Full toddler meltdown as expected here ongoing. So, Carty, walk me through the outfield.
Yeah, definitely similar stuff for me. Like most of the ownership is going to go to the core stuff. Soler, Heliot Ramos, Brendan Doyle. So guys like Judge are probably going to be a little overlooked. Ohtani tonight. How'd that sound? How's that?
What did you switch it from vibrate to Mario noise on me? Is that what happened?
No, it's always been on Mario noise. So you're just not hearing the vibration at all now because of the socks.
Did that really work? Have there been updates?
I guess so. I mean, it's the same thing.
I mean, I can't tell you. It went from there's a literal earthquake in your home to I can't hear it. That's the difference that the socks make. That's it.
All right.
We
Good
need
to know.
a pair of dirty or preferably clean socks just right
These
there.
socks are clean. They have never been worn before.
That's fantastic.
They have beignets
really,
on them from New Orleans.
oh, nice. Classy.
Yeah.
Yes, it works. I approve of the beignet socks. With that, walk me through the outfield, please.
Yeah. So Ohtani is awesome. I like the cheap Oakland and the cheap LA stuff. Lawrence Butler, especially on DraftKings for $3K, I think is awesome. Taylor Ward for $2.9 on FanDuel, I think is really good. Chris Taylor for the Dodgers, Teoscar Hernandez. I think they're really good, but Taylor especially is cheap. Nobody wants to play Chris Taylor, but he's totally fine as a way to save money. I think Andrew Benintendi is a good cheap option on DK. Yeah, that's outfield.
Okay. I want to give a weather update, and then I want to do some home run calls, and then maybe some best bets. I'm going to start with this weather update, and I just think Atlanta probably works out fine and is still too risky to mess with, especially if you want 9 innings. Like, that's how I feel. There's still storms popping up in the area. I think there's a decent chance they need to late start it. And then storms likely move in between 9 to 10 o'clock in Atlanta. And that could be the end of the game at that point. So I don't love it, in particular if they announce a late start. And if these storms keep back building so that late start gets extended, then I really, really don't like it. Again, if you want to take a stab at it, that's fine. It probably works out, but there is some legitimate, it could go very wrong risk. And because of that, and the fact that nobody really loves it anyways, I think look elsewhere for some of those options. That's my weather update for now. I do hear it vibrating a little bit on the socks, but it's just much more reasonable, Carty. It's the difference between like and like that's roughly the sound level difference.
I will be aware of that.
It's okay. As I said, nobody loves that game. Of course, Eric's like, I love the Braves. Okay, I guess if you love it, stick with it and roll with it. But if you don't want that risk, then you just don't do it. That's it. Let's do some home run calls. Carty, what do you got for me? Who's hitting a bomb?
Yeah, let me pull this up real quick. So, I mean, Bobby Witt is. I've kind of talked about how much I love him. I think he contributes in a lot of spots, so maybe not like the best chance of a home run, but he's kind of one of my priority guys today.
Yeah.
In terms of just pure home run, it's Ohtani, it's Judge. They're always kind of the top. In terms of like more off the board type stuff, Brent Rooker, I think, is interesting today. I've mentioned liking Oakland stuff, and I think he has, probably the best shot in the lineup of hitting a home run. Yeah.
And can we look at the Bats' favorite home run bet? That's always one of my favorite things to do with the whole show.
We can. The bets today, the board has just been really, really not great. But let me take a look if we have anything good for homers. Game starts in 6 minutes, but Trent Grisham plus 750 at Bet Rivers looks like a pretty good bet.
Is it anything that you would normally bet, or no, it's just the best of a bunch of not very good options?
No, I think it's actually pretty solid value today. I think there's a couple of home run bets that look better than kind of the usual today.
Okay. Very good. All right. Squirrel, favorite home run calls for the day. Maybe I assume Judge is going to be your top guy because you said you want Judge every day.
Yep. So besides Aaron Judge, I'll go with Michael Toglia and Anthony Santander.
Very good, guys. We have 6 or so minutes until lock. Make sure you're checking out RG Premium for SimLabs. It's the expert DFS lineup generating tool from RotoGrinders Fantasy Labs. It is available for PGA. It's available for MLB. And with a few clicks, you can have hundreds of well-built correlated lineups for whatever contest you're playing. Get access to SimLabs with an RG Premium subscription. Make sure you are grabbing one of those. You got those discounts. Look how fancy that is. Look at that. That's beautiful. Who designed this? Devin, if you could say one person made SimLabs, who was it?
I would, if I gave you one name for SimLabs, every name I didn't say would get so disrespected.
Yeah, that's fair.
They would be messaging me as soon as this show ended.
Okay, I will say a name, and you can either agree or disagree. Jamino.
Yes.
Jamino heavily involved. Okay, we'll leave it at that. That's who I guess you were going to say.
Wow.
He got one name out of me.
Well, I don't want to do more. I'm sure everyone else did awesome. I don't want to.
Okay, I know you don't want to just give one name, but if you had to narrow it down to less than 2 people.
Sorry, you're right. I messed up. I messed that up. My bad. Shout out to everybody who put in.
That's how quick it takes to get 150 well-built lineups.
That's
less
it.
than
Bam. It just
Carty,
happened.
I mean, less than Roth throwing me under the bus.
Yeah. Devin, did you participate in building of the SimLabs?
I did not, no, but I use it very, very frequently.
Okay. Yeah, that's great.
In fact, as of last week when I took second in a 150 max.
Let's go. Let's go. By the way, Devin absolutely crushes at DFS. If you were unaware, producer Devin owns the 150. What is it? The mini max? Or
just baseball. Just baseball.
Okay. Just baseball.
Yeah. I do 20 in the 150, and that's my regular. I feel like I can get different enough than just 20. So
if you see him in your tournament, just unregister. You don't want that smoke. You don't want that Devin smoke. Okay, let's take a few questions. We got about 5 minutes until lock. Get your questions in. They can be about baseball. They can be about food, and they can be about natural disasters. Those are the 3 categories that we are allowing for questions. As always,
or the movie Armageddon, which apparently doesn't qualify as a natural disaster, but I think it should.
I had forgotten that there were asteroids earlier in the movie, so
I mean, there was some pretty significant damage to cities done. It just wasn't like the Earth got wiped out level bad, but
yeah, no, it counts. In hindsight,
we're not happy in that movie.
In hindsight, maybe I was wrong to exclude that based on
Langelier and Berger's families were thoroughly affected.
They had they're all wiped out over there, man. What do we got here? FanDuel single entry Squirrel. You want Charlie Blackmon or Michael Conforto?
I'm gonna guess Conforto, and then I'm gonna look it up and confirm Conforto.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, great. Jay says FanDuel pitcher and favorite stack Squirrel in single entry. Your favorite pitcher and stack in single entry. FanDuel.
FanDuel, I hate to be not like uncreative, but I'll go Derek Cole. Like if you're asking my favorite pitcher, I guess if you don't want to play the chalk, I'd go Edward Cabrera. I actually think Cabrera is a better play on FanDuel because of this chance to put up like a monster score in the one pitcher spot. And then in terms of this like one stack, I'd go Giants, especially if you're going with like Cabrera or a little bit different at pitcher. If you want to get different, I think Oakland.
Okay, great. What do we got here? Here we go. DKGPP from D-Rock, Carty, Adele or Pilar to finish up an Angel stack?
I guess Adele.
Okay. DKGPP, thoughts on Pavetta, Carty?
I mean, he's fine. There's other pitchers I like more than him, but I wouldn't tell you he's like. I mean, he's facing the Dodgers. It's the kind of slate where maybe, but I think it's too cute.
Okay. Squirrel, no Cleveland love in a FanDuel single entry?
Not really. They're just not my favorite stack. They're just not my favorite. I think they're fine for like multi-entry. They're like represented in my 150 build. I'd maybe like just focus on playing like Naylor or Ramirez rather than the full stack.
Okay. Great. Jay says FanDuel single entry. Right back to you here, Squirrel. Cole Devers or Hunter Judge?
Probably Hunter Judge.
Okay, nice. DKGPP, Carty, your favorite pitcher in a DKGPP? Pitchers, rather. We'll need two.
I guess on the high end, my favorite would be like Eovaldi and Burns. I think on the lower end, it's like Edward Cabrera, JP Sears, depending how much money you want to spend.
Okay. And then your favorite pitcher in FanDuel cash, is that just Cole? I don't know what the pricing difference is.
Yeah, I think you just do Cole. I think it's just Cole.
Okay, very good. We got Plate IQ showing up there. You can see projected runs and ownership and park factors and all kinds of fun things. That's some fancy tools when you sign up for RotoGrinders Premium for exactly the cost of one meal at Sarku, Japan. You can get 3 days of that kind of content. Highly recommend you check out all the goodies that we've got. We're less than a minute until lock. Get those lineups in. Bootleg Head Chopper says Carty, Manaea or Waka FanDuel?
Manaea.
Squirrel, Detroit 5-man in a GPP?
I think it's okay. I think I've got like maybe 2% Detroit stacks.
Okay. Jake says Padres bats sneaky. Squirrel, is this sneaky? You like this sneaky?
I don't love the Padres bats. It's nice.
Okay. That's fair. Eric says QQ Carty, Cole over 7.5 Ks plus 100. I say yes, but I know nothing about baseball, so that's why you asked Carty and not me.
Yeah, I say no. The bat's projecting, I think, 7.2, and that's without considering that his stuff is considerably worse right now. 8 strikeouts for a guy who's still rusty is a lot, even if it's a good strikeout matchup, which it is. You're not getting good enough odds for that.
I still say yes. Do it. No, don't listen to Carty. He's a lot smarter than I am. He's a successful sports batter. I am not. We've hit the lock. That is good. Unreleased lo-fi music says, Squirrel, do you like when squirrels invade your bird feeder? That's an important question. I can't stand them. That's what he said. I actually do like when squirrels invade my bird feeder, but I want your take on it.
We actually just like threw out our bird feeder because it all like my daughter made something. It was like made out of a shoebox and it got all rained on and stuff.
That'll happen.
But yeah, I think the food's out there for the squirrels too. You got to think of them. So.
That's how I feel. We have a bird feeder attached to the window in our kitchen, and I've never seen a bird there, but all the time the squirrels come in, and then we get to be like, oh, look at the squirrel, like kind of dancing in our bird feeder. It's kind of fun.
The problem with the squirrels is you have to refill the bird feeder after 2 days because the squirrels eat it all.
That's it. That's
Or even worse, you're growing corn and they steal the corn before it's even grown.
Are you farming?
We have a little veggie thing in the background.
Little thing happening. Okay. I too have this same issue. My tomatoes, all kinds of stuff. All right. So actually, we don't like the squirrels. I thought we were on board. As it turns out, we're out. We're out on the squirrels. Sorry, squirrel. Hey, guess what, guys? We've hit the lock. I've got 2 adorable toddlers that need some hugs and some love. So I'm going to bounce on out of here. I will update this Atlanta game on my Twitter at KevinRothWx, on my X at KevinRothWx. So make sure you are following along there. So for Squirrel, for Carty, for Devin, and our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes, guys, we appreciate you. We love you. And we will catch you tomorrow. You have been.